If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 126, Invitation. Harry stumbled upon a familiar blonde on his way for dinner. "Hello, Harry Potter." Luna looked at him with her usual distracted demeanor. "Hey, Luna. Are you going to the hall?" She nodded. "Then, do you want to accompany me? You can sit at the Gryffindor table," Harry offered. "Is that really okay?" "I don't want to cause you trouble, Harry Potter." "Is no trouble, and call me Harry. All my friends call me that." "Is this a date? Because Daddy told me to at least wait until next year for those." Luna gave him an intense glare. "No, and he should have told you to wait much longer than that." Harry sighed. "What are you thinking, Xenos?" "That's okay then." Luna got closer to him and waited. He realized she was waiting for him to walk. "Let's go then." When the duo entered the Great Hall, the place was almost full. A lot of the students at the Gryffindor table stared at them when he brought Luna and had her sit between him and Lyra. "Harry, that girl is from Ravenclaw," Hermione whispered to him. "And you think I didn't notice that?" Harry raised an eyebrow. "Luna," Ginny called. "Harry, she can't be here. You are going to get her in trouble," Lyra told him. "Did none of you read the rules book?" Harry asked with incredulity. "I did." Hermione looked offended at the mere insinuation. "Then, what are the rules about sitting in the Great Hall?" "Let's see." Hermione put all her focus on recalling the exact words. "All students must sit at their respective house tables during the opening and closing events, as well as special celebrations like Halloween. See, on normal meals, you can sit at any table you want," Harry told them. "Is true, she can totally sit here." Fred Weasley spoke from the other side. "Yes, but don't go to the Slytherin table, for reasons," George added. "Wait, so it's allowed then?" asked Lyra. "Of course, I usually go to the Hufflepuff table. I have some good friends there," Angelina Johnson commented. "You also go for the cute boys, don't tell me otherwise." Alicia Spinnet bumped her elbow. "Whoa there, you have plenty of cute boys here in the Gryffindor table," Fred complained. "Yes, like my brother over here." George pointed to Fred. "Look at that handsome face, you won't find another one like that in the school." "Please, ignore my brothers." Ginny looked embarrassed. What is she doing here? Ron had just realized what was going on when he finished his first plate of food. "Ignore them all," Ginny pleaded. "Well, this is fun. We can visit the other tables. Maybe next time we can go to the Ravenclaw table with you, Luna," Lyra exclaimed. "I don't mind. I always welcome the company," Luna answered. "Okay, so no more complaints, can I eat in peace?" Just as Harry asked this, something fell from the sky and landed on his pumpkin juice, splashing most of it on his face. "Apparently not," Harry grumbled. "What was that?" Hermione shouted. "Something landed on your plate," Luna pointed. "Thanks, Luna," Harry said. "It landed on several plates." Lyra took off a handkerchief and gave it to her brother. "Whoa, that thing is huge, what did you get?" Ron watched with interest. After unceremoniously dropping its parcel, the owl landed on top of it and started at Harry. "What? Don't tell me you want a reward for your fantastic job." Harry stared at the owl with angry eyes. "Don't be cruel, maybe is an old owl." Hermione grabbed a few pieces of meat from a nearby plate and handed them to the owl, who quickly took them in its mouth and flew away. "I hope you choke." Harry gave it some last words before it parted and moved his attention to the parcel in question. As Ron pointed out, it was very big. Almost 80 inches, 2 wide and covered with an expensive-looking velvet blanket. "Are you going to open it here?" Hermione asked. "No," Harry said dryly. He had just wanted to eat in peace, and now he had to deal with this. "Come on, you have to open it. I want to know what's inside," Ron shouted. "That fabric looks like a good quality silk," Parvati said as she ran her fingers over its surface. "This has to be something expensive," Lavender commented. "Could it be from Mom and Dad?" Lyra asked. "That would make no sense. We are going home for Christmas in 2 weeks. If they wanted to give me a present, it could wait," said Harry. "There is only one way to know." Ginny said. She was obviously very curious too. Fine. Harry went to rip the fabric to shreds when he was stopped by Parvati. Don't break it, you brute. Let me open it. She took his hands away and carefully removed the cloth, revealing a box made of some highly polished dark wood. What a beautiful box! Lyra pointed out. There is a mark on the top, Hermione said. Wait, that symbol. I know that one, dot. Ron shouted. A beautifully decorated N was on top of the box, next to it was a white note. That's a nimbus, Fred observed. Not just any nimbus, look at the number, George added. The number 2001 can be seen next to the letter N. A 2001, it just came out today, Angelina exclaimed. Someone must really like you, Harry. Alicia whistled. The sender placed a note. Lavender pointed at the piece of paper. Harry took the note aside and opened the box. A brand new Nimbus 2001 was resting inside. Its wood was glistening and its runes were so shiny that it almost looked alive. Lots of ah and ah could be heard on the table. Harry, that's an incredibly expensive gift, who sent you that? There was a hint of concern in Lyra's voice. Even at her age, she was taught that people who send you expensive things, is usually because they expect something big in return. What does the note say, dot? Asked Ginny. This is an invitation to a birthday party at the end of the year. Harry glanced at the name and it all made sense now. From who? Asked Hermione. Pansy Parkinson, Harry said. Chapter 127, I'll go. Parkinson? Hermione asked. That pompous girl from Slytherin. Lavender said. Harry stared at the invitation card. There was no address written on it, instead, it had instructions about the day and hour that the invitation had to be used. This is a portkey. Harry concluded. A portkey to an unknown location, owned by the man who tried to have his mother kidnapped and his father killed. Harry, you are not planning on going, right? His sister asked. I don't like that girl. Of course, he is not going to go. That's a bloody snake. Ron proclaimed loud enough for most of the hall to hear. Ron, you are being extremely rude. Neville called him out. And this is for Harry to decide. It's not our business. Yes, Ron. And besides, not all Slytherins are bad people. Ginny told her brother with a face of disapproval. She had at least got to know Daphne a bit. She didn't look that bad. If you are not going to attend, I don't think you should keep that gift. Parvati pointed at the box. I don't think you should accept a gift this expensive, regardless if you are going or not, Hermione suggested. No way he is giving that back, are you crazy? Ron could not believe what he was hearing. I wasn't aware that you knew Parkinson, Lavender told Harry. I don't think I ever saw the two of you exchange more than 2 words. Now that you mention it, me neither. But then, why would she send him all of this? Hermione wondered. Oh, Mr. Potter, have you been doing something in secret with a certain Slytherin girl? Parvati said with a teasing tone. Lyra, lend me your wand, please. Harry completely ignored everyone's comments. Hey, okay. Lyra was confused for a moment, but then she remembered that Harry had lost his wand the other day. He also asked to use hers before operating them into the castle. She took her wand from inside her robes and handed it over to her brother. Just a year and a half ago, she could never have imagined doing something like this. But things have changed a lot since then, and she now had complete trust in Harry. Harry took Lyra's wand and molded his magic in order to create a mild connection with it. Reductio, he said as the wand tapped on the wooden box. The box shrank in size until it was no bigger than the case for his glasses. Harry stored the box, along with the invitation inside his robes. He then pointed the wand at himself. Tertio. The juice remnants disappeared from his face and clothes, restoring them to a pristine condition. Finally, he returned the wand to Lyra while everyone at the table watched him with a dumbfounded expression. Whatever I do in respect to this invitation and the gift is for me to decide, and is no one else's business. Did I make myself clear? The seriousness in his voice and his expression got everyone nervous, and they all nodded at his question without thinking about it, feeling like they had just been scolded by one of their parents. Harry's countenance relaxed and returned to normal. Now, let's see, Pepsi, what was the name of that elf? Harry's spilled cup was instantly replaced by a new one and a fresh plate with food appeared in front of him. Ah, wonderful! How efficient! Harry smiled. Now I can finally eat. On the next day, Harry was approached by 3 Slytherin girls after classes were over. Good evening, Mr. Potter. Do you always act so formal, Parkinson? It must be tedious. Harry glimpsed at the black-haired girl. Next to her were Daphne and Tracy. It is a small price to pay for being the heir of a powerful family. I'm sure you understand that. Pansy said with her usual haughty look. Not really, my family doesn't follow the old traditions. That's a shame, my father always says that without those traditions, we would be no different than the savage muggles, Pansy commented casually. Well, there is also our magic, but never mind that. What can I do for you 3 ladies today? To the point, very well. Pansy nodded. I wanted to make clear that there are no strings attached to the gift you received. Whether you decide to attend my party or not, the broom is yours to keep. Of course, I would be delighted if you attended, and my father has expressed interest in meeting the person who saved my life too. Lord Parkinson wants to meet me, Harry stated. He does. So it would be great if could attend, but is up to you. Pansy added. I'll be there. Harry's answer seemed to take the 3 girls by surprise, who didn't expect him to agree so quickly. Of course, none of them knew that he had an ulterior motive for this. But I must say this, did you have to deliver it in such a public way? Pansy grinned. I don't have to hide from anyone. Those who have a problem with my actions can take the complaints to my father. She glared around at the onlookers, and these were quick to look away. In any case, I'm glad to hear that you will come to my party. I will be seeing you there then. Goodbye, Mr. Potter. Goodbye, Parkinson. And you too, Greengrass and Davis, said Harry. The 2 other girls returned the courtesy. Potter. Tracy nodded. Ha Potter. Daphne almost slipped. While the 3 of them left, Harry remained in the same place. There was a blonde boy who had been closely listening to their entire conversation without taking his eyes off him. The boy waited for the 3 Slytherin girls to be far enough and came out from around the corner with an angry expression. Potter. Chapter 128, The Duel. Potter, wait right there. The blonde boy was filled with righteous fury. Yes. Harry responded calmly. Stay away from her. He shouted. Who are you? Shouldn't you at least introduce yourself before demanding things from others? Harry of course knew who this was, but they had never been introduced properly. You know me. I am Draco Malfoy. The blonde looked very offended at not being recognized immediately. Right, we are in the same year, and what did you want again? He asked with a tone of disinterest that seemed to elevate his anger. Stay away from my fiancé. How did I end up in the middle of some teenage drama? Harry wondered. Your fiancé, I assume it was one of the 3 girls that just approached me, yes, dot. He was doing it on purpose now. Yes, Pansy Parkinson. Stay away from her if you know what's better for you. She is mine. Draco screamed. Harry felt the eyes of many students who had remained behind to watch the spectacle. Okay, calm down. From what I understand, your engagement to Parkinson was concluded, am I wrong? Harry asked. So what, Lord Parkinson made a mistake. She was already contracted to marry me. He cannot change that now. She is mine. Draco shouted. The fact that you keep repeating that, says otherwise, but, I have no interest in interfering in, whatever this is. So leave me out of it. Harry requested politely. She gave you an expensive gift and invited you to her party, you expect me to believe that there is nothing there. You are obviously trying to woo her and climb the political ladder with a marriage between your houses. Draco approached. That is very specific, it seems like you are projecting, Mr. Malfoy. That's it, I challenge you to duel, for her. Draco pulled out his wand. Excuse me. Harry raised an eyebrow. I must have misheard you. A duel, Potter. You and I. When I win, you will swear to stay away from my pansy. What do you say? No. Harry said with an impassive gaze. You can't say no. What are you? A coward, dot. Draco was not expecting his denial. I have no interest in you or th. He is no coward. Ron came running to his side after getting tired of watching. Harry is going to kick your ass, and I will be his second. The redhead boy said with conviction. Ron, stay out of. Ron is right, we'll support you, Harry. Seamus interrupted him. We'll help you prepare if you need. Neville was trying to help. Humph, that's better. The duel will take place tomorrow after classes, in the dueling club. You better not run away from this, Potter, or I'll make sure everyone knows your family is filled with cowards. Draco walked away with a satisfied smug. Sigh, why did you have to do that? Harry wanted to strangle Ron at this moment. Is going to be okay, Harry. Malfoy is all talk. Ron said. Yeah, I bet he doesn't know more than 3 spells, Seamus added. But be careful in case he summons that snake. Neville looked somewhat fearful after recalling that. Harry, is it true? Hermione approached him before dinner. Are you going to duel Malfoy? Are you really going to duel that prick so you can date Parkinson? Lavender asked. Is that what you heard? Harry asked. There are a lot of rumors circulating the halls right now, said Lavender. Yes, and most of them were started by you. Parvati gave an accusatory glance. I can't help it, I'm a romantic. 2 men fighting for a woman, is too much. Lavender made a dramatic pose. Is not 2 men and they are not fighting for Parkinson. Hermione exclaimed. Right. She looked at Harry. Harry wanted to roll his eyes. He felt the attention of the entire school on him during dinner. And the next day, was more of the same. Everyone in class keeps stealing glances at him and whispering. Draco was giving his typical smug smile. For a moment, Harry felt that he was back in his original 2nd year. Once more under the judgmental eyes of a castle filled with teenagers. And he did not like it one bit. I'd rather fight that basilisk again. When classes were over, everyone was looking at him. You think he is going to fight Malfoy? He may run away. I wouldn't want to fight Malfoy either, he has a dangerous look. He heard the mutterings of his classmates as he made his way out. Once outside, he found the not-so-golden trio. Ready, Harry? Seamus asked. Of course he is ready, ready to punch that smug smile out of Malfoy's face. Ron said with excitement. Is going to be okay, Harry. Neville tried to sound reassuring. Let's get this over with. Harry said. He wished for things to go back to normal as soon as possible. The group entered the dueling club. The massive classroom was filled to the brim. Not even the first class had this many students in there. Harry noticed that this time, they had made a more elaborate circular platform in the middle of the class. On top of it were Professor Lockhart and Professor Flitwick standing in the middle and Draco Malfoy waiting patiently on one side. There he is, the awaited opponent has arrived. Lockhart shouted while making a dramatic posse. We can begin this duel for love. Let's go. Ron said with enthusiasm while he followed Harry to the arena. He climbed onto the platform and looked around. Harry spotted his sister along with Ginny and Luna standing close to the platform. Hermione, Lavender, and Parvati were also close by. And on the other side, he saw 3 Slytherin girls looking with interest. Are you ready to start, Mr. Potter? Asked Professor Flitwick. Yes, let's get this. Wait a minute, I don't have a wand. Harry just realized. Chapter 129, The Duel Part 2. You don't have a, I remember that you mentioned it before. Your wand is being repaired at the moment. Professor Flitwick said. By Merlin, this is a serious problem. What is it? Is this contestant not ready perhaps? Lockhart approached to ask. Mr. Potter is fine Professor, hold on. Harry walked to his sister's group. Luna was the closest one to the platform. She was holding her wand over her ear like he remembered her doing during her school years. Harry knelt down and took the wand out. I need to borrow this for a minute, Luna. That's fine. She didn't seem to mind at all. Mr. Potter, you can't just borrow someone else's wand and expect it to work for you. Professor Flitwick said calmly. He thought that a second-year student may still not understand this. You don't have a wand, what is this? What a poor excuse, Potter. Malfoy frowned. Thinking that Harry was trying to run away from the duel. I bet he broke it himself to get out of the duel. Some of the Slytherin students started to laugh. Harry held Luna's wand in his hand and formed a connection with it. Most people believe that wands are sentient and choose their masters, but in reality is nothing like that. Wands are more similar to gloves with very specific measurements. Once a person finds one that fits well enough, the wand will bond with the user. This is like making the glove adapt perfectly to the shape of your hand, up to the last fraction of an inch. This will make it so no one else in the world would be able to use that wand like the person who bonded with it. However, by taking control of your magic, is possible to adapt it just enough to fit the glove, and thus make use of someone else's wand. This was no unique ability. Most adult wizards are capable of doing this to a certain degree. Many advanced sorceries require the wizard or witch to have a great deal of control over their magic and be able to shape it at will. However, the branch of magic that requires the most control is transfiguration, and that was something that Harry excelled at. Having been born with a natural talent for it and being trained by two of its greatest masters, Harry had taken this branch of magic to another level over the years. And his control over his own magic was such that even if the wand had a will of its own, it would not be able to distinguish between Harry and its original owner. A wave of electricity and wind came out of Luna's wand as Harry was holding it. Professor Flitwick took a step back in shock, for he knew what that meant. A perfect match, but that wand already has an owner, that's impossible. What was that? Lockhart almost fell to the ground. Draco panicked for a moment and considered if this had been a good idea. But he reminded himself that at this point there was no going back. He had to commit until the end. I am ready, Professor. Are you going to make the announcement? Harry asked with urgency. He wanted to finish this in a quick but also effective manner so Draco would leave him alone from now on. Ah, yes. One moment. Flintwick walked toward the center. The rules of this duel are simple. No use of any dangerous magic or any magic deemed illegal by the Ministry. The duel will continue until one of the duelist is unable to continue or until I, the judge, determine that the winner has become clear. He looked at both Draco and Harry until they nodded in agreement. I believe this duel has some additional stakes, Mr. Malfoy. Professor Lockhart addressed Draco. Yes, when Potter loses, he can't talk or be close to my fiancé anymore. Draco announced loudly. I'm not your fiancé anymore, you blasted idiot. Pansy shouted at him. And you, Mr. Potter? In case of your victory, what would you demand of Mr. Malfoy? Lockhart addressed Harry now. Just don't talk to me ever again, that would be enough. Harry declared. Agreed then, we can commence. Master Flitwick. Lockhart glanced at the small professor. Flitwick held his wand upwards. When the light touches the platform, you may begin. He cast a ball of light that flew in the air and started to slowly descend upon the platform, right in between Draco and Harry. When this one was just a few inches away, Draco made his move. Densagio. Mr. Malfoy. Flitwick shouted. Draco had started too early. Cheater. Several students screamed. A flash of light approached Harry's face. He just tilted his head slightly and let the spell fly by him. Then, he started to walk towards Draco. Flintwick never made a rule that forced them to remain away from each other. Draco saw Harry avoid his spell and frowned, but was not deterred. Sepensortia. Draco conjured a big green snake in between them. Harry did not stop walking. Depulso. With a flick of his wand, the snake went flying back at Draco before it had time to hiss. Draco screamed in fear as the snake started to wrap around him. It was a good thing he had learned to cancel the spell this time. Professor Snape made sure of it. The snake disappeared and Draco let out a breath of relief, but then realized that Harry was getting dangerously close to him. He didn't know what his opponent was planning and that made him worried. Stay away, stupefy. A red light came out of the tip of his wand and he saw it impact on Harry's chest. He was about to grin and celebrate his victory when he heard a loud commotion of gasps and shouts. What is it? Chapter 130, The Duel Part 3. The red spark of light was held in place at the tip of Harry's wand. From where Draco stood, it appeared Harry had suffered a clean hit, but he quickly realized that if Harry had been hit, the red light from the spell should have dissipated. What is this? Draco didn't understand how Harry was holding his spell in such a way. It was something he had never seen before. In fact, of all the people in the room, only the two professors and the few 7th-year students who came to watch were familiar with this technique. During 7th-year defense against the dark arts, students are taught about two defensive moves that one could perform during a fight. One was deflect, and the other was hold. To deflect, one must create a protective layer around the wand, like a miniature Protego charm, and use it to bash spells away. This allows for a gain in tempo, as the caster can use the momentum to throw their own spell while the opponent is recovering. The hold version is considered a lot more advanced. One needs to create the charm in a very specific shape to contain the opponent's magic. A slight mistake could lead to the spell detonating in one's face, and because of this, the hold is considered a much more dangerous option. That downside leads people to prefer deflecting spells or simply dodging them, while hold is rarely used, not even in professional dueling. The fact that Harry had opted for this was a show of how confident he was in his own abilities. Impressive, Mr. Potter. Professor Flitwick appeared delighted. The main advantage of using hold over deflect was that it allowed the user to return the spell back to its owner. If followed quickly with another spell of your own, it would be an almost guaranteed victory. Which is exactly what they were expecting Harry to do next. Instead, Harry gave the wand a swift flick, sending Draco's stunning spell flying toward the upper part of a wall, where it fizzled and disappeared. The spectators were surprised to see this. They all thought that Harry was about to end the duel right there. Even Draco had a shocked expression on his face. However, Harry knew enough about Draco's personality to understand that ending the duel at that point would not have been enough to convince the boy to leave him alone. Had he left it like this, Draco would come up to him the next day claiming that he got lucky and demanding a rematch. After all, the blonde boy did not understand the complexity of what Harry had done. He would need something more impactful to get the message across. What kind of trick was that? Draco demanded to know. Harry ignored his questions and continued walking towards Draco. He was now just 5 feet away. The Slytherin boy was going into panic mode. His pupils were dilated, and his body was shaking. His eyes. Why is he looking at me like that? I have to. Draco gazed upon Harry's intensely bright green eyes. He recognized the look Harry was giving him. It was the same look that Draco gave to all those from inferior backgrounds than his own, a look of complete indifference. Something he reserved for those beneath his notice. Draco clenched his teeth as rage tried to replace his fear. I won't allow him to look at me like that. I am Draco Malfoy. Don't look down on me. He made a slashing motion across Harry's face. Diffindo. Draco put as much magic and rage into that spell as he could muster. He wanted to cut Potter's face, maybe even cut his head if possible. Consequences be damned now. Harry didn't even flinch. As soon as Draco started moving his wand, he was ready to counter his spell. He followed Draco's motion with his wand, and as the cutting charm left Draco's wand, it was immediately grabbed by Harry's. This time, Harry did not send the spell away. With a follow-up upward slash, he flung the cutting charm at its new target. Draco's wand. The charm had enough potency to cleanly cut the wooden wand, along with the tip of one of Draco's fingers. The blonde boy screamed as he fell down on his butt. Draco looked up and saw Harry towering over him, his wand aimed directly at him. The Slytherin boy could not take his eyes away from Harry's. The bright green color of Harry's eyes reminded Draco of the killing curse right now. He would never forget the day his father demonstrated this curse to him. He was told it was forbidden by the ministry, but he would need to learn it regardless. His father told him that this was a very important spell to know, along with the other 2 unforgivables, and that all proper wizards should have mastery over them. Draco listened to everything his father said. He wanted to be a proper wizard like him one day. At that time, the green light brought Draco a feeling of joy. But now, it made him feel nothing but dread. He is going to kill me. Draco thought as he stared into Harry's eyes. Pure white light appeared at the tip of Harry's wand. Reducto. No. Draco yelled. This is it. I'm really going to die. He thought. Mr. Potter, stop. Professor Flitwick yelled as he pulled out his own wand. Daddy! Draco called with a loud scream. Just joking, Harry said with a grin. All the pressure and dread that Draco was feeling disappeared all of a sudden. Incarceres. As Harry cast the spell, a white rope came out of his wand and wrapped tightly around Draco, preventing him from making a single move. Chapter 131, Malfoy did what? That was too much. Hermione complained. That was just right. Seamus argued with her. The group was sitting on the inner garden benches, having a discussion after the duel had concluded. I still can't believe that Malfoy pissed himself like that. Lavender commented with amusement. Usually, I have to invent rumors like those. That was not funny, Lav. Hermione looked upset at her friend. That was hilarious. Ron, on the other hand, found the situation really amusing. I don't mind that, but cutting his finger was a bit. Neville made a complicated expression. That was an honest accident, said Harry. Had he been holding the wand correctly, his finger would have been fine. I'm sure Madame Pomfrey fixed that in a minute. Wouldn't worry too much about it, Parvati added. Still, that's probably why Professor Flitwick banned you from the club. Lyra looked at her brother. And gave you 2 months of detention, Ginny reminded him. I have never seen Professor Flitwick that angry, Hermione commented. Well, as long as he keeps his word and doesn't talk to me again, I'll consider it a small price to pay, said Harry. You don't have to start your detention tomorrow, right? Seamus asked. No, the professor told me I have to start after the break. Why? Please tell me you didn't forget. There's a big Quidditch game tomorrow. Ron exclaimed. You know, one you have to play, Seamus added. Right. Harry muttered. He totally forgot. Lyra said. I didn't. Said Harry. He did forget about that. I'll be there. Try not to end it too fast. Ginny and I are going to watch you, Lyra said with excitement. I'll do what I can, Harry said. That's what we're afraid of. Ginny mustered. And that's the end of the game. Harry Potter captured the snitch, Jordan announced. Gryffindor wins against Ravenclaw, 152-0. How long was it? The announcer asked the girl next to him. 90 seconds. Bloody hell, that was fast. Jordan, language. McGonagall scolded him before returning her eyes to the field. This may be a problem. On the Gryffindor stands. So, was that a record? Seamus asked. No, according to Quidditch Through the Ages, Hogwarts edition, the fastest game ever played was 6 seconds, back in 1956. A player caught the snitch as it was making its initial flight up, Hermione answered. Still, this was the fastest game I have ever seen. Ron said with excitement. I feel a bit sorry for the other players, they didn't get to do anything, Neville commented. Yes, especially the ones on Ravenclaw. Look at the face of their seeker. Lavender pointed. That's Cho Chang, yes, she looks about ready to murder Harry, Parvati added. I'm glad Mom and Dad didn't come for this. Lyra said. I'll just send them a letter and tell them that Harry won. Doesn't Harry send them letters? Ginny asked. Harry only sends letters to Holly now. Lyra huffed. Ginny raised an eyebrow. Are you jealous? Harry opened the entrance to the foundations and went down the long set of stairs. He then walked through the chamber until he reached his little workshop. There was a lit cauldron with some silvery liquid inside. He peered over and observed its contents. That seems about ready. This was a small batch of magicite that he had started a while ago with the remaining scraps he had. He opened a drawer and pulled out a handkerchief containing 4 small arc stones. This was all he had left from his initial purchase. It was not enough to replace his lost artifacts, but he had a different purpose for these. These will make for a nice present. It was almost the start of the Christmas break, and he had to make something for his sisters. Besides, there were not enough materials to replace his artifacts. And I want to find some better quality materials for my next ones. Since I have to make them again, may as well make a better version of them. He held Lyra's wand firmly in his hand. He had to borrow it again since he is still waiting for his replacement. According to Dumbledore, Fawkes was almost ready to produce a feather for him. Let's get to work. He gave the wand a flick, and the silvery liquid started to levitate out of the cauldron. There was a very small amount of the alloy, but it was enough to produce 2 rings and 1 pendant. Harry proceeded to embed the arc stones and engrave the runes. This time, he used a different runic array. These ones were not meant to be used as a magic storage but to power a single spell engraved on the metal. It was a simpler work compared to the previous one, and he only had to make 3 pieces, but he still put his full focus on the task. Once he was done, he placed the jewelry pieces on the table and examined them with care, making sure he didn't make any mistakes. Other than the 2 rings and the pendant, he was left with 1 spare arc stone. He had another use for that one. Okay, this is not bad. I think they are going to like it, Harry smiled. He placed the jewels in the individual boxes he had prepared and closed them. His eyes moved to the other side of the table. An old book was resting next to the corner of the table. The words Time and Space were written on its cover. This was the book he requested from Dumbledore. He had been planning on reading it before but did not have the time yet. Maybe I should take a look now, this may have some answers I have been waiting for after all. He opened the cover and started reading. Chapter 132, Surprise Delivery. Mr. Potter, the headmaster would like to see you in his office, Professor McGonagall informed him on Saturday morning. It was a good thing he was alone in the common room. Hermione would have jumped to wild conclusions. Harry was about to order the gargoyle to move out of the way when he remembered his promise to the headmaster. Password, the statue demanded. Let's see. It was, wine gums, whatever those are. It was the one that McGonagall had given him. Correct, you may come in. The gargoyle rotated around and revealed a set of stairs. Professor, you wanted to see me. Harry went inside the office and got comfortable. Yes, I wanted to inform you that. Dumbledore pulled something from a drawer. Your new wand core is ready. He placed the pristine phoenix feather on the table. Harry took the feather, red and orange lights shone over its surface. Thank you, Fox. I'll put it to good use. Harry glanced at the phoenix on his perch. He looked completely recovered now. Fox gave a cry that Harry interpreted as "You are welcome." Dumbledore smiled for a moment. Yes, we are expecting great things from you, Mr. Potter, however. His smile faded. I do have a less pleasant topic to speak with you about. Let me guess, is this about my duel with Mr. Malfoy? You think I went too far with my methods, Harry could easily guess. I do admit, that was on my mind. I felt very concerned when I heard what happened during that duel. If it was a normal student, I would not intervene and just let the professors decide on the punishment, but it's you we are talking about. I may not know what you are fully capable of doing, but I'm sure you could have defeated a second-year boy without harming him. So you want to know why? It's simple, I wanted him away from me, and I know how stubborn he can be. A slap on the wrist would not be enough, I had to do something that would really scare him, Harry explained. I still don't understand what reason you have to, is it perhaps something he did in your future? After all, his family alliances are well on his side. Let's just say. I know what he is capable of. And no, I'm not judging him for what he did in my time. Otherwise, he would already be dead. Along with a dozen more students in the school. Dumbledore frowned deeply. He knew Harry was not giving an idle threat and he really meant his words. You shouldn't judge them for things they haven't done yet and they may never do. And I'm not. In fact, by keeping him away from me, I may be protecting him. But I would not hold my hopes up with that one. From what I have seen, this Draco Malfoy seems to be on a much darker path than the one I knew. Then let us hope that doesn't happen. As headmaster, I must believe that all my students are capable of accomplishing good things and making the world a better place. I think those lemon candies are affecting your head. Dumbledore didn't look pleased with his comment, but Harry ignored him. Now, can you take me to Diagon Alley? I have a wand maker to visit. I will open the Floo network for you. I trust you can manage by yourself. Dumbledore stood up, walked to the fireplace, and tapped on it. He then took some Floo powder and threw it inside. Leaky cauldron. Green flames erupted inside the fireplace. To return, just say Hogwarts headmaster, I'll keep the way open until you come back. Very well, Harry stood up from the chair and walked into the flames. And Mr. Potter? I'll trust that you will behave yourself, Dumbledore said in a way that sounded more like a warning. Of course, I always behave. Harry disappeared into the flames. Are you looking forward to going back home? Ginny asked Lyra. The two of them, plus Luna, had stayed in the Great Hall after finishing their breakfast. Most students had left, so the hall was a nice place to hang out. To be honest, I do miss my home. I can't believe it's only been 3 months since we started school, Lyra admitted. I know what you mean, it has felt like a lot longer. A lot has happened. Ginny gave her a weary smile. Luna didn't know what they meant. The time had passed very fast for her, so she went back to enjoying her pudding. I'm looking forward to Mum's cooking. Not that there is anything bad with Hogwarts, but... Ginny said. Yeah, your mum is an amazing cook. Lyra then recalled something. Did you know that Harry can cook too? He does. Ginny looked incredulous. Totally, he makes some amazing breakfast. You and Luna have to come visit during the break. I'm sure that he'll... Wait, what is that? Lyra pointed up as something flew into the hall. A delivery owl, someone is getting a present. How nice! Luna exclaimed. Lyra looked around, trying to guess where the owl was going. There were only around 4 or 5 groups of people left in the entire hall. The owl appeared to fly around in circles for a bit before deciding where it had to go. Wait! It's coming this way! Lyra said. The owl was flying straight at them. No way! Is something for us? Ginny said. The owl landed right in front of Ginny and dropped a small package in front of her. Hey? Is it for me? Ginny found it hard to believe. Her parents wouldn't send her a present now. She was going home in a week. Who could have sent me something? There is one way to find out, you know. Luna pointed out the obvious. She is right, open it up. Lyra said with excitement. Chapter 133, A Mysterious Lady and a New Wand. Harry appeared inside the leaky cauldron. It was still early in the morning, so few people were around. Welcome to. Tom stared at Harry with interest. Did you come alone, boy? Tom recognized the Hogwarts uniform. It wasn't that rare to have students coming by during the school year, but the young ones always came accompanied by a teacher. Yes, sir. I'm just going to Ollivander's, Harry answered. You look very young to go alone. Usually, they only let those who have passed their O.W.L.S. to travel by themselves, Tom pointed out. I am very mature for my age, so they let me go alone. But you can call Hogwarts headmaster through the floor if you like. Harry cleaned the soot from his clothes. Now if you'll excuse me, I have an old man to visit. Tom stared at him as he left but didn't say anything, then he glanced at the fireplace. The streets of Diagon Alley were very lively already. It was almost mid-December, so it was normal to see more people doing shopping than usual. Harry disregarded the stares and made a beeline to Ollivander's. Today, he had no other business in the alley and wanted to get this done quickly. When he entered the shop, Ollivander was already attending to someone. A tall woman with long dark hair and elegant clothes. He could recognize the acromantula silk and gold threads on her tunic, indicating that this was probably a lady from a wealthy magical family. I don't know which one would be better. She seemed troubled about deciding something. Ollivander averted his gaze from her and looked at Harry. Welcome, young one. I will be with you in a moment. The woman turned around and looked at Harry. When he saw her face, Harry was surprised at how beautiful this woman was. She appeared to be around his mother's age, with a perfectly proportioned face, dark eyes, and a kind smile. Hello, young man. I'm sorry for taking this long. Oh, perhaps you can help me. Help with? Harry asked. You see, my daughter wanted to pick up a gift for a boy around your age. We decided on one of these wand holders, but I cannot settle on which one to choose. The troubled woman said. So you want me to help you choose a holster? Harry glanced at the 3 pieces on top of the table. He was familiar with those. Dragon hide, fire crab shell, and troll skin, Harry enunciated. Very good, young man, you have a good eye. Ollivander nodded in approval. Crab shell is immune to fire and very resistant to physical damage, while troll and dragon hide are extremely resistant to magic in general. Unless this boy is going to be working with dragons on a regular basis, I would discard that one. And between troll and dragon, I would 100% choose dragon hide. It's a bit more difficult to carve enchantments on it but worth the trouble. I would suggest an invisibility enchant if he is still in school. Most schools would not allow holsters to be used. Wow, you are a very knowledgeable young man. The black-haired lady looked impressed. She moved her eyes to Ollivander. I'll take the dragon hide one. The old man placed the holster in an elegant box, and the lady paid for it. Thank you for your help, young man. I hope we meet again. She then walked to the door before stopping when she realized she had forgotten to ask for his name. Mr. Potter, ebony 11 inches, and phoenix core, isn't it? Ollivander asked with a knowing smile. It used to be at least. Harry muttered. Is there something else, my lady? Ollivander asked, noticing that she had remained at the entrance while looking towards them. Harry turned around and noticed the woman staring at him with intense eyes. She then looked at the old man. No, that would be all. Thank you, Mr. Ollivander, and you too, Mr. Potter. She gave him a mysterious smile and walked out of the door. Who was that woman? Her face was somewhat familiar, Harry thought. So, Mr. Potter, what can I do for you? I hope the wand I sold you is serving you well. Actually, no, that's why I'm here. I am in need of a new wand. Harry may have been able to word that better. Pardon? Ollivander looked shocked. What happened to the one I sold you? Did it break? Well, yes, it did break, Harry admitted. Show it to me then, I'm sure I can repair it in no time, Ollivander promised. Not this one. Harry thought. No, you see, there is nothing left of the wand. It's all gone, including the core. The core is gone too. That's impossible. Phoenix feathers are one of the most resistant materials in the world, no magic performed by a young student could completely destroy it. Now tell me the truth, Mr. Potter. What happened to the wand? Did you misplace it? You want the truth, fine. I activated a runic artifact that allowed me to channel through it the combined magical power equivalent of dozens of wizards and used this power to create a flame so hot that it burned the hydrogen from the atmosphere, manifesting something akin to a miniature sun or a small nuclear explosion. Then, I employed this flame to exterminate a basilisk half the size of Hogwarts. This amount of magic was too much for the wand and it turned into dust, core included. Ollivander stared at him for an entire minute before speaking again. I guess I am out of touch after all. I don't understand the jests of the current youth. No, that wasn't AJ. Very well, Mr. Potter, I understand. I will make another wand, but only if you promise me to take better care of this one. Wands are not tools to abuse and throw away, they must be respected. Ollivander said with a stern expression. Harry gave up on arguing with this man. It was better this way. Sure. I promise. Chapter 134, Ginny's Gift. Maybe I should open it in our room, said Ginny. No, open it here, Luna demanded. After all, she could not go into the Gryffindor common room. I can't wait that long, Ginny. Come on! Exclaimed Lyra. Okay, fine. Stop shaking me! Ginny complained to her friend. She undid the package, revealing an elegant black box with intricate gold designs. So pretty! Lyra stared at the box in awe. It is. Ginny was surprised. Even if this box turned out to be empty, it would still be the fanciest present she had ever received in her life. There is a letter on top, N? That seems familiar, Luna pointed at the top part of the box. Lyra and Ginny observed it up close and immediately recognized that symbol. It can't be the same one, right? Lyra asked. She had seen a symbol just like that one very recently. Nimbus. Ginny concluded. It was the same N that she saw on that box that Harry received. It seems like a small box for a broom though, Luna commented. Don't be silly, it can't be a broom. Maybe they also make other things, Lyra said. Let's see. Ginny opened the fancy box with care. Her hands were shaking with excitement, wondering what could be inside. Whoa! The three girls said in unison. The sight did not disappoint them. Inside the box, resting on a velvet cushion, was a golden chain. The metal was so well polished that it almost seemed to sparkle under the light. At the end of the chain was a miniature broom. I stand corrected, there was a broom inside after all, Luna admitted defeat. You think this is real gold? Ginny touched the chain. Lyra did the same. It does seem like it. She did not seem very impressed with the gold, after all, she already had several pieces of jewelry made of gold. She was more interested in the broom itself. Unlike the chain, the broom did not seem to be made of gold or any other metal. It looks like it's made of wood, Lyra pointed out. It seems a miniature of the same model as Harry got, I can even see the number, and I think there is something else written there, Ginny said. A perfect replica, Luna nodded. But don't try to write it, she advised. I wasn't going to. It's a beautiful necklace, Ginny seemed delighted with the present. But I wonder who sent it, is there a note or something? No, but, wait. There is a paper here, Lyra pulled a piece of paper that was stuck to the inside of the lid. Don't leave us hanging, Ginny is about to explode, Luna exclaimed. I'm not. She huffed. But please, read the note. Let's see, place the broom on the palm of your hand and say the magical word. Lyra said. What was that? Ginny asked in confusion. That's what the note says. Lyra showed it to Ginny and glanced at the miniature broom. That sounds like instructions, Ginny pointed out. And what happens next? Luna asked. It doesn't say what it does, but this magic word, I think I know it, Lyra said. Just try it then. Luna urged her. Okay. Ginny took the broom necklace out of the box and placed it in the palm of her hand. What was the word? Is written down here, I think it's better if you read it yourself, just in case. Lyra handed the note to Ginny. Ginny stared at the single word marked with a rectangle. Engorgio. As soon as Ginny said the word, the small broom in her hand made a cracking noise and instantly grew in size, knocking several of the cups they had on the table. What? The girls became startled. This is a real broom. It must have some sort of enchantment to make it small, Lyra realized. Ginny stared at the broom in her hands. There was something written on the side of it. Nimbus 2001, for Ginny. Your name is engraved and everything, that's very impressive, Luna said. But if I remember correctly, first years are not allowed to have a broom in school. Lyra gasped. She is right, you need to hide it. If a professor sees it, they will take it away. Ginny hurried to hide the broom under the table and glanced around the hall to see if anyone had noticed. Luckily for them, the few groups in the hall were too busy in their own conversations to pay attention to what was going on elsewhere. Ginny sighed in relief. No one saw us, but how are we going to take it to our room? This is too big to hide. Let me see that paper again. Lyra took the paper and read it again. Here it is. There is a way to make it small again. How? Ginny said with urgency. Lyra showed her the paper and pointed at the lowest part. Another magical word had been marked with a rectangle. Reductio. As the words came out of Ginny's lips, the broom seemed to disappear for a moment. It worked. Ginny said with excitement as she raised her palm up and showed them the miniature broom, still attached to the gold chain. That's amazing. Lyra said. This is the best thing ever. Ginny exclaimed with joy. A very useful gift, I wish we knew who sent it, Luna said. The note doesn't say anything else. Ginny placed the broom back in its box and went back to examine the note. Other than the instruction to enlarge and reduce the broom, there was nothing there. But then, Ginny turned the paper around. There is something written on the back. The girls leaned in to see the text. An easy-to-hide broom for a sneaky witch. Chapter 135, Christmas Break. The train came to a halt at its destination, and the students descended onto the station. Harry. He was promptly tackled by his little sister as soon as he stepped on solid ground. Harry placed down his luggage and hugged the young girl. Hello, Holly, I missed you too. And what about me? Lyra stood at their side with her fists clenched at her sides and an expression of displeasure. That would be difficult, I just saw you a minute ago, Harry told her. Yes, he just saw you. Holly pouted. Get your own brother. The little girl said while pointing at Lyra. Lyra was flabbergasted. I was talking to you. Lyra stared at her sister. And what do you mean by get your own brother? He is my brother. Lyra pulled on Harry's arm. No, mine. Holly pulled on his other arm. Okay, what is going on? Harry did not understand how the situation had degraded to this. What happened to those two? They used to get along so well. James approached the group. Daddy. Lyra let go of Harry and jumped onto her father's arms. James grinned. Hello, dear. He then gave Harry a glance. Hey son. How was school? You know, mostly normal, for Hogwarts, Harry told him. James' face became serious. He could tell there was more to it than his son was letting on. We can talk more at home. Your mother was busy preparing things so she sent me here alone. Their father took the three of them home after saying their goodbyes to their classmates. Mom. Lyra ran through the kitchen and almost tackled her mother in the same way that Holly did to Harry. Lyra, careful. I was holding a knife, Lily complained. Oh. Lyra now noticed it. Sorry, Dad said that you were busy preparing something. What are you doing? She looked behind her mother. There was a cutting board with several vegetables being cut. As you can see, I was preparing dinner, Lily said with a warm smile before looking at Harry. Hello, Harry dear. Hi Mom, are you cooking alone? Harry asked. Mom, why are you doing this yourself? We have two house elves, Lyra looked confused. I wouldn't count Dobby for cooking. Harry muttered. We do, but I like to do some things by myself sometimes. Maybe it's because I grew up in a muggle house, Lily told her daughter. Ah. Didn't seem like she understood it yet. I'll go leave my things in my room, Harry said before making his way to his room and closing the door behind him. Dobby, he called. The elf appeared immediately with a loud pop sound. Master Harry, sir. Welcome home. Thank you, Dobby. Harry sat down at his desk and started to pull some small containers out of the secret pockets of his robes and placed them on top of the table. Dobby approached and glanced at them with curiosity. One of the containers was an inconspicuous white box, while the other two were made of glass and had some vials with liquid inside them. The box contained the 2 intact basilisk eyes that Harry had secured. And the glass ones had the vials of basilisk blood and venom that Snape had collected from the chamber. I expected the old man to complain more before giving me these. Master Harry, what are these things? Dobby pointed at the container and asked. But he then realized something. Oh no, Dobby bad. Should not ask Master questions. The panicked elf was about to smack his head against the table when Harry had to stop him using his hands. Enough, Dobby. I already told you before to stop punishing yourself, Harry said with authority. Dobby seemed to come to his senses. Yes, Master Sir Harry Potter. Harry glanced back at the containers. These are some rare ingredients that I have recently acquired. And by rare, I mean illegal. So, no one can know I have these. Do you understand, Dobby? The elf nodded vigorously. Dobby understands. Harry was sure that Dobby must have done a lot of shady stuff for Malfoy, so he must be used to this kind of thing. Do you remember the place where you hid all the things we took from the bad master? Dobby knows. Harry nodded. Good, I need you to take these 3 containers and, very carefully, bring them to that place. I will have need of them soon enough. Dobby can do, Harry Potter Master Sir. Okay. Harry sighed. For some reason, Dobby still had difficulty in keeping his name consistent. Dobby took the containers with care and disappeared from his room. Harry lay on his bed and closed his eyes. He felt tired after the long journey home, especially after being forced into the same cabin as his sister, Ginny, Hermione, Lavender, and Parvati. That felt like a lot more than 6 hours. Maybe I can rest a bit before dinner. All of a sudden, he heard someone trying to open his door, followed by a series of loud bangs on it. Harry, let's play. Holly screamed. Never mind then. Harry sighed. Chapter 136, Explanation. How was your first impression of Hogwarts? Did you like it? Lily asked Lyra during dinner. It was fun, I mean, for the most part. She kept stealing glances at Harry. How subtle. Harry thought. Yes, that business with the tremors was quite awful. It was lucky that no one got seriously hurt, said Lily. Dumbledore told us the matter has been resolved, said James. A planetary alignment was interfering with the wards, apparently, Lily said with a doubtful expression. Is that what truly happened? James looked at Harry and Lyra. Well. I mean, the headmaster said, and I didn't see much. Lyra stammered the words. She was told to say nothing about the matter. No, that's not what truly happened, just a simple explanation the headmaster gave to the masses to calm them down. Harry decided to assist his sister since he knew his parents would want a better explanation. Harry. Lyra looked at him with confusion, thinking her brother wanted to keep everything secret like the headmaster. Oh? And what was the cause for all that trouble? Asked James. Just some big scary creature that was bumping around near the castle foundations and making it shake, Harry explained. Lyra raised an eyebrow at the simplified explanation. Describing the monster they saw as a big scary creature was not exactly inaccurate, but it felt like downplaying it a bit too much. There's a big scary creature in Hogwarts. Holly doesn't want to go there again. The little girl cried. Harry gently patted her head. It's okay, the scary creature is gone now. Your brother chased it away. Really? Holly asked. Really, Harry reassured her. She then seemed to recall something important. Oh. Like Neville Longbottom in the Cursed Castle. That made Harry chuckle. He was being compared to the fictional version of the alternative boy who lived. Something like that, he ended up saying. Lyra, can you take Holly out for a bit? We need to speak with Harry alone for a moment, Lily said with a serious expression. But I haven't finished eating yet. Lyra complained. It will only take 10 minutes, Please, James said. I want dessert. Holly proclaimed. Go with your sister, Holly, and when you come back, you can have as much dessert as you want. Mipsy has prepared some delicious tarts, Lily told her. Yes, let's go. Holly dragged Lyra out of the kitchen. Lyra seemed like she wanted to complain but kept her mouth shut. Instead, she gave Harry and her parents a suspicious look, wondering how much they knew about Harry's abilities and how much they weren't telling her. So, Lily started once they were alone. About this scary monster you mentioned, can you tell us the truth? Yes, I confess, it's actually dead. I just told Holly that I chased it away because she's 6, said Harry. This is serious, Harry, James said sternly. We haven't forgotten about the things you told us about your past. Yes, and there was one particular creature you mentioned fighting during your original 2nd year. A basilisk, Lily said. Is that the beast you mentioned now? Did you go to the Chamber of Secrets again? James asked. Yes, I did, Harry admitted. You fought that basilisk alone, again. Lily exclaimed. I did, but this time it was easier, he answered nonchalantly. Why didn't you call for help? You already knew what was down there, James asked angrily. Help from who? I was the most qualified to fight a giant basilisk. No one else had experience with something like that, but I did, Harry reasoned. They had no argument against that. Fine, but what about him? Was he also involved in this? James asked, referring to Voldemort. Of course, Harry knew he was talking about Voldemort. He told them about the cursed diary and how it was used to possess a student he didn't identify to open the chamber. No, this time, things were very different in that regard. That man had nothing to do with this. But then, who opened the chamber to awaken the basilisk? Asked Lily. That's the thing, it awoke by itself and started to cause trouble. So I opened the chamber and went inside to deal with it. This time there was no diary or possessed student writing on the walls. It awoke by itself? How? James knew there was something else to this story. I still don't know for sure. It was true, he didn't understand it completely. What happened in that chamber still remains mostly a mystery to him. He had hoped to find some answers in the book that Dumbledore gave him, but he has only managed to read a small part of it so far. The book is actually a compilation of different people's work, all put together in one tome. There were chapters written during completely different eras, by people living in different places. It's an absolute mess as every part is written using a different language. He understood the parts in Latin and somewhat understood the parts in Old Gaelic, but the Sumerian and ancient hieroglyphics would give him a lot of trouble to translate. And that was the easy part. There were languages that he couldn't even identify. It was going to take him a while to translate everything and then study its contents. I'm looking into it. He finally said. His parents remained silent for a minute. There is something you are not telling us, said Lily. There are many things I'm not telling you. But you will have to trust that I have the best intentions to do so. Giving you random information that even I am not sure is correct will benefit no one, Harry told them. Very well. I can accept that, Lily nodded. On the other side of the kitchen door, unbeknownst to them, someone was listening to their entire conversation. Original 2nd year. Harry had already fought that basilisk before. Who is that man? What diary are they talking about? Lyra heard most of what they said, but nothing made much sense to her right now. However, this confirmed her suspicions that something major had happened to her brother to make him change so much, and it wasn't just hitting his head very hard. And Mom and Dad know about it. Chapter 137, Presents. December 25th, early morning. Presents. Holly screamed while running down the stairs. Stop running. You're going to fall. Lily chased after her. Lyra sighed. When is she going to stop going crazy like that for presents? You were doing the same thing until just a few years ago, James teased her, and Harry chuckled. Lyra became visibly embarrassed at this. I did not. She replied. James laughed loudly. But you did. I remember you used to say, Daddy Daddy. Let's go. I want to open the presents, and then you would take off running, and your mother chased after you. She made a dissatisfied expression. That was all in the past, Daddy. I mean Dad. I am soon to be 12 years old and a Hogwarts student, so I'm almost a grown-up, she said smugly. Sure you are, dear, James said with a smile. Harry wondered what being a Hogwarts student had to do with anything. When he crossed the doorway into the living room, he spotted Holly already circling the Christmas tree, collecting every box with her name on it. By the time Lyra, James, and he arrived at the tree, Holly was struggling to carry away a pile of boxes. Let me help you with that. Harry knelt down, picked up the biggest boxes, and carried them to a nearby couch. Holly sat down and started tearing open the presents. He gave a sidelong glance to the tree, where his other sister was searching for her own presents with a face of pure joy. Harry, help! Holly seemed to be having trouble with one of the big boxes. Harry stayed with her and assisted her while she unveiled a good variety of presents, including clothes, toys, and books. Finally, she opened the smallest present of them all. After removing the wrapping paper, she revealed a simple-looking wooden box about the size of his fist. That one is from me, said Harry. He could have made a more beautiful box, but it was a conjured object, and like all conjured objects, it would only last for a short period of time before disappearing. From brother. Holly stared at him. This got the attention of the other family members, who were curious to see what he had gifted her. Go ahead, open the box. The present is inside, Harry told her. So pretty. Inside, there was a pendant made of silvery blue metal with a brilliant stone embedded in it. It had a circular shape, and around it were runic symbols. Attached to it was a simple chain made of the same metal. Oh? That must have cost you quite a few coins, said James. Lily and Lyra moved closer to take a better look at the object. Lyra's eyes widened as she recognized the design. Lily, on the other hand, stared at the pendant with curiosity. She did not recognize the stone or the metal it was made of. Its surface shone like silver, but it had a bluish tint to it that made it look like it was radiating with magic. Where did you get this? What is it made of? Are those runes? What do they do? She started bombarding him with questions. For a second, it reminded him of an old friend with bushy hair. I made it myself. It is made of a special alloy called magicite. Yes, those are runes. As for what they do, it may be better if I demonstrate it. It looks a lot like your earrings. Did you also make them? Lyra asked. Can you make some for me? Earrings? Asked James. Never mind that, Harry brushed their questions away. Magicite? I have never Oh, I see, Lily stopped talking when she realized. If Harry had made it himself, it had to be something that he learned in his future, so she decided not to ask in front of her daughters. The rune cluster looks very intricate and well made, James said, impressed. He was not a master at runes, but in order to become an Auror, one needed to have at least an advanced knowledge of them. So you are skilled at writing runes too? Perhaps you could give your mother some tips, Lily whispered in his ear. I'm barely decent with that stuff, but sure, he replied. He could not call himself skilled at runes when he had met people like Hermione or Luna who could run laps around him in that field of magic. But he did have a lot of knowledge that didn't exist in this era, so it's not like he couldn't teach anything to his mother. And what does it do? Lyra asked. Does it shine? Exclaimed Holly. That, it wouldn't be very impressive if it only did that. Harry glanced at Lyra. Why don't you bring yours, and I'll give you a demonstration. I got one too. Lyra asked excitedly. Yes, but they are a bit different, said Harry. I believe it's that small box over there. He pointed. Wait, you want to do a demonstration here in the living room? James asked with concern. He knew how destructive Harry could be. Harry, you can't do magic outside of school. Did you forget about that? Lily reminded him. I already removed the trace, Harry said nonchalantly. What? Lily looked outraged. Of course he did. James sighed. Chapter 138, A Little Demonstration. Let's see. Harry looked at the coffee table next to the couch where he was sitting. There was a small box made of oak that was used to store sweets. He carefully emptied the box and placed it back on the table. What are you going to do with that? Lyra asked. While his family looked on with interest, Harry tapped the box with his wand. The box started to change shape until it became a small humanoid golem, around 30 centimeters tall, 11.8 inches. It had no facial features to be seen, just a pair of legs and 2 hands with 4 stubby fingers on each hand. Its body was composed of the same light-colored wood as the box it was created from. Wow! What is that? Holly stared at the tiny golem with wide eyes. That's kinda cute. Lily smiled. Very impressive. But what is it going to do? Asked James. The golem looked up at Harry and extended its arms with its palms up. It looks like he wants something from Harry, said Lyra. Holly, he needs to borrow the pendant for a moment, Harry told his sister. He wants this. Holly held up the pendant and glanced at the golem. You want this? She asked it. Of course, the golem did not have the capability to answer, so it just waited. Harry used his connection with the construct and made it move its little head to nod several times. Whoa, he said yes. She placed the pendant on its palms and wrapped the chain around it. Okay, you can borrow it, but don't lose it. My brother gave it to me. Lily and James chuckled at seeing their daughter talk with the golem. The construct turned around and walked to the end of the table before jumping down. Where is he going? Asked Lyra. The little golem took off running with the pendant in its hands, startling the two young girls, but then stopped once it had reached an empty part of the living room. Okay, we can do the demonstration now. Stay where you are, don't go close to the golem, said Harry while pointing his wand at the little construct. Harry, you're not going to shoot that little guy, right? Lyra asked with concern. Stupefy. Harry shot a red spark of light before his parents could say anything. They all saw the red spark fly at the golem, but before it could impact it, a white light emerged from the pendant and deflected Harry's spell. It shines! Exclaimed Holly. A semi-sphere made of white light covered the golem completely, enveloping it in a protective cocoon of sorts. What is that? Lily asked. Some sort of protective charm, but I've never seen one like this. James added. Is a sanctuarium, it is indeed a protective charm, a very powerful one at that. It can stop any attack, magical or physical, including the unforgivable curses, for a limited amount of time. Harry claimed. That thing can stop the unforgivable curses? Harry, that's impossible, James said. Unlike the Protego charm, this forms a physical barrier. Harry conjured a knife and threw it at the white dome. The knife bounced off and landed on the floor. Unforgivable curses can go through magical barriers, but not physical objects. Lily realized. Is Golly okay in there? Holly asked with worry. You gave it a name already. Lyra glanced at her sister. The golem is perfectly okay. As I said, nothing except the most destructive spells can go through that barrier. For a protection this powerful, there have to be some downsides, said Lily. Of course there are. It has several, in fact, the most important is that the person being protected by the sanctuary becomes trapped inside until the spell wears off. There is also little to no visibility in there. It only lasts for a short duration, maybe 5 minutes. It depends on what is being hit by. Harry explained. So you cannot be harmed, but you cannot escape either, and once the effect is over, you become an easy target. I see now. James was planning on asking Harry to teach him this charm, but these downsides made it impossible to use during a fight. This is meant to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Lily realized. This was the perfect thing to use on a vulnerable target, like a child or an injured ally who can't fight back. Yes, if anything were to happen, this will keep her safe while you deal with the threat. That's the idea at least. I hope you never have to use it. Harry said in a lower voice. You put a lot of thought into this, thank you, Harry, Lily said with a warm smile. They waited a bit longer, and after 5 minutes, the white barrier disappeared, revealing the little golem, completely intact inside, still holding onto the pendant. Golly! Holly went running and grabbed the golem like a doll. It was very light since it was made from a wooden box. How can she get attached so quickly? Lyra exclaimed. The pendant arc's tone will need 24 hours to recharge before it can be activated again, Harry explained. Does mine work the same? Asked Lyra. No, yours has a different charm. Harry took Lyra's ring and put it on one of his fingers. He moved the hand in front of his face with the ring pointing outwards. All you have to do is channel a bit of your magic into it to activate it. A translucent shield appeared in front of Harry. That's a Protego charm, James recognized immediately. It is. The charm is shaped like a shield and can be moved around. He demonstrated it by moving his hand. It is a lot less powerful than the one from before. But you can move around and use it to block and deflect while attacking. He then deactivated the shield and returned the ring to her. It may take some practice to use, but you'll get the hang of it. Why is mine different? Asked Lyra. Harry looked at his sister and lifted his wand up. Because, unlike Holly, you have the tools to defend yourself. You just need to learn how to use them. But Professor Lockhart hasn't taught us anything yet. Lyra exclaimed. Not even the flipendo? Asked James. What's that? Lyra asked. Yes, that man is useless. But don't worry, I'll teach you a few things next summer, Harry promised her. I want to have a talk with Dumbledore about his selection process for teachers. Lily grumbled. Chapter 139, Harry's Presents. It's time for you to open your presents, Harry, his mother told him. That's right, you haven't opened any yet, and I can see that you have many, James gave him a mischievous smile. Harry. Holly came running to him with the little golem in her hands. The golem was still holding her pendant. Can I keep him? Holly. Harry sighed. He gave her a piece of priceless jewelry that contained magical technology yet to be invented, and she was more interested in a wooden golem that any senior Hogwarts student could make. I mean, she is 6. And now I have to explain to her that this golem is not going to last long. Holly, dear. Lily must have noticed his issue and approached her daughter. Harry made the golem using transfiguration. He transformed the candy box to make it look like this little fellow, but it will soon go back to looking like what it was before. Holly gasped. He's going to become a box. It was a box to begin with. Transfiguration can temporarily turn things into other things, but eventually, everything has to go back to being what it was, said James. Holly didn't seem convinced yet. Is there no way to make it permanent? Asked Lyra, trying to help her sister. I wouldn't say permanent, Harry spoke. But as long as you supply a source of magic, you can extend the transfiguration indefinitely. I remember reading a story about a dark wizard who caught his wife cheating and turned her into a pig, then, using an unknown method, proceeded to maintain the transfiguration for over a decade until she died. Yikes! Lyra looked disgusted. Harry, that was hardly an appropriate story. Lily complained. But it does give me an idea. He approached Holly. You know, Holly? Why don't you give me some time, and I will make a more permanent golem for you. He was lacking the materials at the moment. Really? And Goli won't have to go away? Holly asked. I suppose not. I'll have it ready for your birthday, I promise. Holly looked down at the golem. Okay. She placed the golem back on the table and waved it goodbye. Are you sure you can make that? Lily whispered to him. Of course, who do you take me for? He felt offended at the doubt. Lily chuckled. She found it amusing seeing how prideful her son was when it came to magic. Well then, it's time for Harry to open his presents, James said. Presents? Holly exclaimed. He said, Harry. You already opened all of yours. Lyra told her sister. Why don't you help me open some then? Harry offered while looking at the pile of boxes. He did not expect to get this many. Other than his parents, there were presents from Hermione, Neville, Daphne, and Parkinson. Lyra read the label on the box. She sent you another present. Did you say Parkinson? James said with a frown. Pansy Parkinson, she is a girl from Slytherin, Lyra clarified. She did not know why her father reacted like that. And what did this girl send you? Lily asked with curiosity. Harry opened the box, revealing a beautifully crafted wand holster made of dragon hide. He also noticed the runic engravings. This is the same model so that's who she was. It also has an invisibility enchantment like mine. That's not a bad gift, those holsters are very expensive, said Lily. That's nothing compared to the Nimbus 2001 she gave him earlier this month, Lyra commented. What? James probably said it louder than he originally intended. Harry, why didn't you mention this? That girl gave you a new Nimbus? Harry, that's a very pricey gift, even for a wealthy family like theirs. Why would she do that? Asked Lily. We don't know either. Lyra exclaimed. He won't talk about it. She gave Harry a quick glance. Harry. You're not, with this girl. Lily muttered. Please stop. Harry groaned. It's nothing like that. I just saved her when she fell from the stands on the day of my first Quidditch game, and she said she owed me a great debt. That's all. That happened? Why didn't I hear of that? Lyra asked. Because I told no one, and I guess Slytherin girls don't like to gossip as much as Lavender. Harry opened the present that Daphne sent him. It was a very elegant black robe with silver decorations and made of a chromantula silk. Oh, that's so nice. Lily got closer. Daphne has good taste. Wait, we're not done with the whole Parkinson stuff, James huffed. What does Dad have against the Parkinsons? Lyra asked her mother. Lily made a complicated expression. Well, let's just say that he and Lord Parkinson don't get along. That was quite an understatement. Lyra was not dumb. She knew there was more to it. Her father would not react so strongly otherwise. Yes, we don't get along, James coughed. That's a shame. Lyra glanced at the robes. So Harry is not going to attend Parkinson's party then? Because those robes would have been great for it. What? Shouted James. What party? Lily looked at her son. Right, about that, there is a party in 3 days. Pansy's birthday, and I have been invited, Harry admitted. When were you planning on telling us? Lily asked with disapproval in her eyes. Tomorrow. Harry said. He wasn't really planning on telling them until the last moment because he knew how his father was going to react. Harry, come to my studio. We need to talk. James looked furious. Something like that. Harry thought. Chapter 140, Preparing for a Party. Very well. James sat at his desk. We can talk properly now. What are you plotting now? Plotting? Please, Dad, I thought you knew me better at this point. I don't engage in plots. I simply stumbled upon an opportunity by chance and made use of it. Harry settled into a comfortable chair in front of James. And this opportunity is the party Lyra mentioned. James didn't look pleased. It is. How can I say no when I have the chance to locate the lion's den? Not that I expect the party to be held at Parkinson's main manor, but at least one of his vacation houses. I thought we agreed that you would discuss things with me and your mother before taking action against those people. The order is active again, we are making progress. Harry sighed. As I said, I didn't plan for this. It's something that happened. Fine, let's move on from that. What do you intend to do at that party exactly? James inquired. You know. Meet people, observe who's associated with Parkinson's, and gather some names. Perhaps I could discreetly explore the house during the party and see if I find anything of interest. Harry wished he still had the invisibility cloak, it would have been very useful for that. Wait, you were planning on going there alone? James realized Harry hadn't mentioned what he or Lily would be doing. Of course, I would go alone. You are openly an enemy of Lord Parkinson, and Mom was nearly kidnapped by men sent by him. I won't put her in danger like that, Harry said firmly. And what about you? You would also be in danger, James frowned, displeased with the idea. Not as much as you two. I'm just an ordinary child as far as Lord Parkinson is concerned. And I'm attending as a guest of his heir, Pansy Parkinson, after saving her life. It wouldn't reflect well on him if he attacked me under those circumstances. You don't know him like I do. That man is ruthless. I wouldn't put it past him to try to kidnap you anyway just to get to me. I did consider that possibility, of course. But I will have my wand and know how to use it. It's not like I'm defenseless. Harry said. It would have been nice to still have his artifact, it was unfortunate to have lost that one. It was going to take a while before he could make another one. Just your wand. I know you are good, but that may not be enough. James stood from his desk and walked to a nearby cabinet. Harry glimpsed at him, wondering what he was looking for. Let's see, I think I still had some. Oh, there they are. James walked back to the desk with a plain-looking container. He then opened it up in front of Harry, revealing 2 black marbles inside. These are. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that the marbles were actually glass containers and some thick black liquid was inside. If you throw one of these to the ground, it will create a dark fog that could cover a big area, giving you a chance to escape. We always bring some of these items when we are expecting an enemy ambush. It can save your life if you find yourself outnumbered. James explained. That seems useful, said Harry. Didn't the twins invent something like this in my time? Is kinda weird seeing it here now. But theirs was a bit different. Who came up with these? He decided to ask. James smiled proudly. It was your mother. She did. Harry knew his mother was talented at many branches of magic, including potions. But it was still surprising to hear. You should bring a broom with you. Combined with the smoke potion, it will give you an easy escape. James suggested. I will. But I'm sure it will not be necessary. Always prepare, Harry. For a moment, his father sounded like Alastair Moody. Always. He nodded. You mentioned before that the Order of the Phoenix is back on working. What progress did you make? James made a complicated expression. Well, we are still gathering some of the former members, but we have more information on Lord Parkinson now. Arthur was able to find out some things like which lords are the closest ones to him. That will help us find more if we investigate the people around him. And those lords are? Harry questioned. Voldemort McNair and Edward Nott are always next to him and accompany him everywhere. They are like his left and right arms. Evan Rosier and Corvin Yaxley are seen around him very frequently but not as much as the others. Sorry Dad, but that's not much. I know, but we are making progress. Besides, it is doubtful that he will make any bold moves now. With Malfoy dead, all eyes are now on him as the leader of the conservative faction, James told him. I'm not worried about him trying to take over the country by force. I'm sure he doesn't have the magical prowess from the real Voldemort. Otherwise, it would be over already. But you need to keep an eye on other creatures like werewolves, giants, and trolls. He may try to recruit them to do the heavy work. James smiled. You are suggesting the exact same thing that Dumbledore did. Well, you know, we both know a lot about that man. That is what he would do, and Lord Parkinson has served him for many years, so he must also be familiar with his methods. James nodded. You can leave that to us. I guess you have a party to go now. Chapter 141, Welcome to the party. Be very careful, do you hear me? James told him. On the 28th, Harry was currently waiting for the portkey to activate in a small clearing, 20 miles north of their house. The reason was for extra precautions, in case the portkey could somehow store information about its jumping point. Harry was currently wearing the black and silver robes that Daphne had gifted him. The robes already came with several hidden pockets, but he had added a few more to store all his things. He was ready for battle. Harry, if at any point you get a bad feeling, I want you to get away from there immediately, okay? Lily said. Yes, I promise. I'll be back in a few hours. Harry glanced at his mechanical watch again. It was time. The invitation in his hand activated, and he felt a strong pulling sensation. The next moment, he found himself in a dimly lit room. The walls were made of stone blocks, and the few pieces of furniture appeared to be ancient. It looked like a dining room, but it was completely empty, and all the furniture had been moved to the sides, leaving a big void in the middle. A trap already? He considered. Under his robes, Harry activated his holster, and his wand immediately appeared in his hand. He was about to perform a scan of the area when he heard a voice. Mr. Potter, I presume. Harry's eyes quickly moved to the source of the unknown voice and found an old man wearing a black suit. Yes. Harry asked, not sure who this man was. Welcome to the Parkinson Villa, Mr. Potter, the old man greeted him with a polite bow. I am Julian, one of the family servants. Please follow me to the main party area. The other guests will be arriving over the course of the next hour. It was then that Harry realized why this room was empty. This must be the landing area for the portkeys. They must have set them at different times to avoid accidents. He felt a bit silly for not reaching that conclusion earlier. But he was very inexperienced with these kinds of elegant parties. Harry walked to the entrance of the room while the old servant waited for him. Follow me, sir, the butler said before turning around and walking at a steady pace. Harry looked over the many objects displayed across the halls as they walked. The walls were filled with luxurious items hanging from them. Intricate paintings, and artifacts made of silver or gold with a variety of precious stones embedded in them. Were the Parkinsons always this rich? He wondered. Or perhaps Lord Parkinson was the type who would place his most expensive possessions right on the path he knew his guests would take, as a show of status and power. It was hard to tell since he had never, in his 2 lives, met this man. The one thing he knew for sure was that one day, he was going to kill him. After all, he would never forgive those who tried to harm his family or friends. But he couldn't just walk up to him and do it, the world was not at war like it used to be. So he was unable to employ the same methods as he would have during that time. If he acted in such a way, he would bring endless trouble to his parents and sisters, and he wanted to avoid that. Neither did he wish to bring harm upon the rest of Lord Parkinson's family. Unless he learned otherwise, they could be completely unaware of Parkinson's machinations and his acting as the fake Voldemort. "Here we are, Mr. Potter." The old butler opened the door and showed him inside a much bigger room than the one he was in before. Not only was it bigger, but it was also much better illuminated, with countless candles attached to 4 massive chandeliers. The circular room was filled with round tables, but there was also a big empty space in the middle. "This is a ballroom." Harry frowned as a terrible feeling invaded him. He was a person of many talents and skills acquired over the years, however, dancing was not one of them. "Potter, over here." He turned to his left and saw Pansy sitting at a table with Daphne and Tracy next to her. He schemed over the rest of the room and only found a few other groups of adults sitting down at the tables while a couple of girls wearing black dresses walked around with trays of drinks. "It seems like many of the guests have yet to arrive," as that servant said. He could not identify Lord Parkinson among the dozen or so lords currently in the room since he had never seen him before, but he did spot Lord Greengrass and made a mental note to speak with him when he got the chance. While walking towards Pansy's table, he made sure to get a good look at the layout of the room. The double doors he used to enter were also the only exit, and that led into a maze of corridors. "That's no good. I don't even know where the exit is since I came through a porte-cochere that took me inside the house." The good news was the several glass doors at the end of the ballroom, which appeared to lead to a massive balcony. Among other things, his Nimbus 2001 was currently shrunken and hidden inside his pockets, making this balcony his best escape route if things go south. "Just need to make sure it's not locked." "Good evening, ladies." Harry offered them a formal greeting as was expected of him. He had recently been learning how to behave properly in formal situations, but he still had much to learn. Pansy had a bright smile on her face. "Welcome, Potter. Please, take a seat." She pointed at the seat to her right. He gave the other 2 girls a passing glance. Tracy was not paying much attention, while Daphne stared at him with a weary smile. Chapter 142, The Ladies. As the butler said, more people continued to enter over the course of the next hour. Harry recognized some of them, like Alecto Caro, Lord Bulstrode, and Edward Knott. "Why is he sitting there?" Theodore Knott glared at Harry with furious eyes, as he was currently seated to the right of Pansy. "Because I asked him to," Pansy said with a tone that left no room for arguments. Harry received many nasty glares during the last hour, almost exclusively from the young male guests. He might still be learning about etiquette, but he at least knew what sitting on the right side of the host meant. He was being treated as the guest of honor, and many didn't seem to like that fact. Theo was just the first one who had dared to speak up about it. "Tisk, fine," he decided to shut his mouth and sit down, not wanting to anger Pansy any further. Like most of the boys here, Theodore Knott had the desire to earn the engagement with the Parkinson family that the Malfoys had lost. And by giving Harry that seat, she was practically announcing who the first candidate was, making him the target of much contempt. Of course, Harry was not aware of all of this at the moment. After all, Slytherin gossip never leaves the Slytherin house. It is one of their unwritten rules. The ballroom continued to fill until only a few seats remained. At his table, most of the students were from the second year: Crabbe, Goyle, Millicent Bulstrode, Knott, Pansy, Daphne, and Tracy. The only exception was Flora Caro, who was currently in the third year, as well as her missing twin. The table next to theirs had older students, most of whom were boys Harry was able to recognize from the Quidditch team, like Marcus Flint, Adrian Pusey, and Cassius Warrington, as well as a few others. "Who are we missing?" Tracy pointed at the empty chair on their table. "Zabinai," Daphne was the first to answer. "It seems like his porte-cochere was left for last." Knott glanced at Pansy. "Did he offend you in any way?" Since the portkeys were arranged in order, it was inevitable that someone had to be last. But it was considered a mild disrespect to be left for last. So it was an honor left for the least welcomed guest. "Let's just say," Pansy started, "I did not like the way his mother attempted to approach his engagement proposal." "Did Lady Zabinai try to seduce your father?" asked Millicent with a grin. "I believe she is looking for her next husband," Tracy added. "Oh, there they are," not pointed at the door. Blaise Zabinai entered with a young woman at his side. If Harry didn't already know better, he would have assumed that this was his older sister. The woman did not look a day older than 25. She was beautiful in an almost unnatural way, with her olive skin, long black hair, and a pair of clear ember eyes that were almost reaching a yellow color. Blaise and his mother came directly towards their table without stopping once to greet any of the other guests. "Miss Parkinson, greetings. It appears we are the last ones to arrive, how rude of me." "I beg your pardon," Lady Zabinai glanced at Pansy with a provoking smile. Everyone at the table became tense after hearing her comment. She apologized for arriving late and called herself rude. But since the order of the portkeys was decided by the Parkinsons, she was essentially calling them out for being the rude ones. They all glanced at Pansy, wondering what her reaction was going to be like. Harry, on the other hand, was completely focused on Lady Zabinai. But it wasn't just for her alluring beauty. "Why do I feel something off with her, that aura, it reminds me of them." "Do not worry much about it, Lady Zabinai. We can all get careless sometimes. We just need to be more careful next time," the voice came from behind Lady Zabinai. A gorgeous woman with pale skin and black hair stood there, looking at the other woman with barely hidden contempt. "Mother!" Pansy muttered. "Lady Parkinson," Lady Zabinai smiled at her. "You didn't need to come all the way here. I was about to visit your husband's table next." Harry moved his eyes away from the dark-skinned beauty and stared at the other woman. He was not surprised to find out that Lady Parkinson was the same lady he met back at Ollivander's. It had become evident after receiving the dragon skin holster that he himself had chosen a few days back. Lady Parkinson appeared to be extremely angry at the other woman, and Harry didn't know what could have happened between the two of them, but he had heard some of the rumors surrounding Lady Zabinai. She is also known as the Black Widow, and it is said that she has already married more than 5 times, but all her husbands die in mysterious circumstances soon after the wedding. "There is no need to go speak with my husband," Lady Parkinson said with an icy tone. "Your seat is on the other side of the room," she said while pointing at a faraway table. Lady Zabinai smiled with amusement, not looking bothered at all by the treatment she was receiving. "Then I better get going to my place." She leaned over and gave her son a kiss on the cheek. "I'll see you later, dear. Have fun." She turned around and walked with elegance across the room, turning many heads to glance at her curves. Blaise Zabinai sat down, looking very embarrassed by the whole situation. "I had everything under control, Mother," Pansy huffed. "Of course you did. But dealing with adults is our job." Lady Parkinson's eyes scanned the table until they stopped at Harry. "Mr. Potter, it's so good to see you again." Chapter 143, A Challenge. "Good evening, Lady Parkinson," Harry returned the greeting. "Please, call me Aurora. No need to be so formal." "Lady Aurora, then," Harry replied. He couldn't be that informal. "Call me Harry, please." "Can I call you Harry too?" Pansy jumped at the opportunity. She didn't like calling him Potter. But in high magical society, you couldn't call someone by their name unless they permitted you. "And you can use my name also," the girl said enthusiastically. "Very well." "Pansy," Harry said, starting to feel uncomfortable with this interaction. "By the way, Harry," Lady Parkinson called for his attention. "I truly want to formally thank you for saving my beloved daughter, but I believe my husband wanted to do that first." She glanced at a distant table, and Harry tried to follow her eyes. "He seems to be occupied at the moment, talking with some lords. Perhaps after dinner." "Of course, Lady Aurora," Harry said. He could wait a bit longer to finally meet this man. "Then, I will leave you children to have some fun and enjoy the party." She made a polite gesture and walked away towards her table. "Say, Potter," Bulstrode was the first one to speak, once Lady Parkinson was a good distance away. "Yes." Harry glanced at the huge girl. He did not know much about her, other than that she had a reputation for being violent. "Did it feel good to beat up Malfoy in such a way?" she asked, leaning forward. "I bet it did. Did you see how he wet his robes?" Not chuckled. "Yes, we all saw that disgusting display." Tracy covered her nose by reflex at the mere memory. "He looked completely terrified and embarrassed after that. I was told that he barely left his room for the last week," Zabinai added. "You were so brave and gallant, Harry," Pansy grinned. "No one has ever fought for me in such a way. I was very flattered." Harry flinched. Is that what she thinks happened? That my duel with Draco was just for her. It wasn't completely wrong. After all, Malfoy was indeed fighting for her, or more accurately, for her money. But Harry just wanted to be left alone. Yes, yes. Bulstrode rolled her eyes in annoyance. But I wanted to hear what Potter thought. I don't have much to add. I did what I had to do, nothing more, Harry gave her a vague answer. Well, I'm glad that you did it. Pansy leaned closer to him, making the other boys frown. Malfoy has been such an annoyance all year, someone had to put him in his place. Can we talk about something else? Daphne sounded very annoyed. Oi, Potter. Someone called him from the next table. Harry glanced over and noticed most of the older boys were staring at him with hostile eyes. The one who spoke right now was the Slytherin captain, Marcus Flint. Is there something you need? Asked Harry. I do, actually. First, you should address your seniors with more respect. Only when said seniors treat me with the same respect, Harry answered. Marcus clenched his teeth. And second, don't get too cocky because you won a duel against a second-year boy. That's right, any of us could have done the same, Adrian Pusey said with a mocking tone. You are all seniors, while Harry is just a second year, like Malfoy, Daphne pointed out. Watch your mouth, Greengrass, this has nothing to do with you. We are talking to the Gryffindor over here. Cassius Warrington, the fifth-year chaser, told Daphne, his voice filled with spite. Lord Greengrass had recently rejected his second attempt at an engagement. You are Warrington, right? Harry's voice became colder. That's right. Warrington glared at Harry. I'll remember that. He made a mental reminder to keep an eye on this one. You know, Potter, Marcus Flint spoke, and didn't dare to interrupt him now, so he had to remain quiet. We would love to have a few friendly duels with you. We could exchange pointers and maybe give you some advice. Now I know you have been banned from that joke they called the Dueling Club, but we at Slytherin have our own private dueling arena in the dungeons. I could allow you to enter and participate, what do you say? That could be fun, Potter, we could show you what a real duel looks like. Adrian Pusey had a creepy smile on his face. Not interested, Harry answered. At this point, he wasn't sure if all this animosity came because of their loss at Quidditch or because they were also after Pansy Parkinson and they considered him to be in the way. But it looked like a good opportunity to deal with a few Death Eater's new recruits. He knew that at least Warrington and Flint's fathers were some seriously nasty wizards. If this could drag them into a conflict, they may have something useful to say if I can get them alone, he considered. His reason for refusing Flint's challenge was that it would look strange if a second year suddenly accepted an offer like that so quickly. And it wasn't like they were going to give up. Those guys have made the decision to come after me, let them come. Not interested, you say? Flint chuckled. He already expected him to say no. But they would find a way to make him accept. That's enough, Flint, Pansy got annoyed. Harry is my guest, and this is my party. If you can't behave. Flint raised his hands up. My apologies, we'll be good. I promise. He said those words, but the anger behind his smile said otherwise. Chapter 144, Let's Dance. Mr. Potter, Lord Parkinson came to their table after dinner, as Lady Aurora had told him. Lord Parkinson, Harry greeted him back. This time he had to put in extra effort to avoid showing any contempt for the man in front of him. Lord Parkinson was a short man with a broad frame and a pudgy nose. He had short grey hair, showing his age, and dark eyes. He could not be called handsome by any stretch of the word. His daughter Pansy was very lucky to have inherited most of her looks from her mother, except for the nose. I finally have a chance to meet you, the one who saved my precious daughter. I cannot thank you enough, Mr. Potter, he said with a wide smile. By the way he was glancing at Harry, it was obvious that Lord Parkinson was talented at the mind arts because Harry could not feel an ounce of anger from the man. His words felt completely genuine, and he would have believed them if he didn't know better. No wonder he is so successful at politics, the man is a natural liar, Harry had to admit that much. As the Lord of House Parkinson, I want to formally thank you, Mr. Potter. And if there is anything that I can do for you, all you have to do is ask. Harry could feel the eyes of everyone in the ballroom staring at him, some with curiosity, while others with envy and rage. I will need to think about it and consult with my parents. Harry knew what everyone was expecting him to ask, and he couldn't straight up say that he had no intention to request any marriage proposal. That would be a great insult to the Parkinsons and a wasted opportunity. If everyone thought that he was going to take the great privilege of forming ties with the current most powerful conservative wizard family, they would become more desperate to make a move against him, like those boys from before. Yes, that would be a good idea. Talk with them. I'm saddened they couldn't attend today. Looking forward to speaking with James, Lord Parkinson did not lose the smile for a second as he spoke. Of course, he didn't mean a single word he said. If his parents had attended the party, he may have not been able to resist doing something. And he would never even consider marrying his daughter to him. It was all for a show. Lord Parkinson turned to look at Pansy. "My dear, come here and dance with your father," he said as he extended his hand. Pansy smiled and took his hand before being led to the center of the ballroom. "It is customary for the daughter to have her first dance with her father," Daphne whispered to his ear. She must have guessed that Harry was a bit clueless about the many customs pure-blood families had, as his own family didn't follow many traditions. "Right, this reminds me of something," said Harry. He then got closer to Daphne. "Do you mind dancing with me for a bit?" Seriously. She was expecting to be asked that a lot tonight, but not by him. "Let's just say that I don't really have that much practice in that field. I could use some help." "Something the great Harry Potter doesn't know how to do? I thought that was impossible." Daphne pretended to be shocked. "There are a lot of things I don't know, so, do you mind?" he asked. "I'll do what I can." She got nervous and said the last part loud enough to be heard by the entire table. "What are you going to do?" Tracy glanced at her with suspicion. "Nothing." She was about to grab Harry's hand when she seemed to recall something. "Harry, you have to offer me your hand," she whispered. He did as told and guided her to the center. There were already many couples dancing. "You know the basics at least? One hand on my shoulder and another one on my waist," Daphne instructed him. "Yes, I know this much." He still remembered the classes Professor McGonagall gave him during his 4th year. The last time he had a chance to use that knowledge was the day of his wedding. It's been so long, a lifetime ago. "Harry. Harry." Daphne had to shake him off. Harry's mind came back to the present. "Sorry, let's continue." He placed his hands in the correct spots, and they started to move. "Your face was, never mind." Daphne wasn't sure what he was thinking about, but her instincts told her that it was better to let it go. The two of them danced for a while. Harry gave a glance at the podium where the instruments were. All of them were moving by themselves, there was no musician playing. "Hey, you're not that bad. I thought you didn't know how to dance," Daphne commented. "I guess I remember things better than I thought," Harry said. "Remember? It can't be that long since you were taught." "My mother started my classes around 4 years ago," Daphne didn't understand how he could think he was going to forget that quickly. "Say, do you think I can speak with your father alone tonight? I have a small request for him." Harry changed the topic. He'd rather not have her asking questions about his past. Daphne noticed this and frowned. "I suppose, we can go to his table after this song is over, you know. Harry." She seemed to be having trouble speaking about something. "Yes? You know you can tell me anything, Daphne." She sighed. "You know, you have made a lot of enemies today, there are a lot of boys aiming to marry Pansy, when she asked you to sit at her right. You know what that meant, right?" Harry nodded. "I do know, yes. She was letting them know that I was going first." Daphne looked a bit surprised. "You knew, and you are okay with it? I mean, she likes you. Pansy. If you also, you can request it from Lord Parkinson, they owe you a great debt, so, you know, you can." Harry had never seen this girl stammer her words so badly. "Would you calm down?" He got his face closer to speak in her ear as he didn't want anyone to hear this. "I have no intention to get engaged to Parkinson. I just want others to think that way." "What? Why would you want that?" Daphne exclaimed. "I have my reasons. I can't tell you right now." Daphne still didn't know anything about Lord Parkinson having become a pretender Dark Lord. "I should inform the Greengrass family as soon as I can, that way they can be more careful around that man. But I can assure you that no one is getting engaged, not that Lord Parkinson would approve. He hates my family. I will tell you more, but not now and not here." "Is that so?" I hope you know what you are doing. Daphne had to look down to hide her smile. Chapter 145, Gathering Information. After their dance was over, Harry and Daphne went to Lord Greengrass' table. Unfortunately, he was accompanied by two other lords he was not familiar with, and he could not just ask to talk in private. No one was aware of the Potter's connection to the Greengrasses, and it was better for it to remain this way. So Harry limited himself to exchanging the expected pleasantries and introducing himself to the other lords. Even after being told their names, he did not recognize them, so there was little chance that they were part of Voldemort's forces in his time. This didn't mean much. Maybe they weren't important enough to be seen on the battlefield, or they could be simple collaborators who didn't fully join the organization. It is safe to assume that everyone at this party is either an ally of Lord Parkinson or, at the very least, a potential one. Even Lord Greengrass himself had to pretend to be on his side but was not yet willing to completely commit. Harry had already prepared for this likely scenario. He waited for an opportunity and handed a small package to Lord Greengrass. This package contained a sample of the type of arc stone he required for his artifacts and a note detailing his request plus a long list of ingredients. Greengrass took it without looking at him or making any gesture and stored it inside his robes. He would have to wait until returning to Hogwarts to hear his reply, likely delivered by his daughter. There you are. All of the current occupants of the table turned their attention to the source of the noise. Pansy glanced at Harry with her intense dark eyes. I have been looking for you everywhere, Harry. I believe the lady wants to dance, Mr. Potter, Lord Greengrass said calmly. It would be rude to make her ask, he then added. Of course. Harry stood up and offered his hand to the girl, who happily took it with a wide grin on her face. Daphne, why don't you stay here for a bit? I have some things to discuss, Lord Greengrass said. Harry realized that he was probably trying to save her the trouble of being asked to dance by a lot of the boys here. She may not be as popular as Pansy, but there was no shortage of families who would like to get their hands on the Greengrass fortune and business. Harry guided Pansy to the center of the ballroom, and they started to dance, feeling a bit more confident after the practice with Daphne. Are you enjoying the party, Harry? The girl asked, feeling a bit nervous. I am, you have a very nice house. But I assume you don't live here, do you come here often? He asked. She nodded. We have two other villas that we visit more often. This is just the third time I have been in this one, I think. So they have 3 villas and 1 main house. Lord Parkinson chose the one they visit less often for this party. It could be a coincidence or, he didn't want to reveal the location of some of his more important homes to one or more of the guests. I noticed that you have a lot of servants but haven't seen any house elves working here, Harry commented. My father doesn't like house elves. He says they can't be trusted. Instead, we have those servants. Most of them are squibs, except for the chief butler who is a half-blood. No house elves for security and only one actual wizard, noted. Harry noticed that she was starting to look bored and realized he could not just perform an interrogation. You have a lovely dress, he decided to comment. Her face immediately changed. Really? You like it? She had recovered her smile now. He felt a bit guilty for manipulating this young girl. But he had a good reason for doing so at least. They continued to dance for the full songs while Harry gave her a mixture of compliments and questions, trying to gain as much information as he could. In the end, all he could find out was that their main home was somewhere in the north of Scotland and the names of the closest lords to her family, the Knots and the Rosiers. Nothing crucial so far, but it did open the door for more opportunities in the nearby future. Eventually, they were interrupted by Pansy's mother, who came to scold her daughter for ignoring her other guests in favor of Harry. I have to go, Harry. She looked very apologetic when she said that. I completely understand, do not worry about me. Harry then noticed that one of the glass doors leading to the balcony was open. I think I will go take some fresh air, excuse me. As he approached the doors, he spotted the alluring figure of Lady Zobanai outside. Chapter 146, The Alluring Lady. Harry observed the beautiful olive-skinned woman from a distance as she conversed with some older gentleman. She smiled and laughed at whatever the old fellow was telling her while running her fingers along his arm in a very seductive manner. Then, she leaned forward and whispered something in his ear, and the man responded with something like I'll be right back before walking away with an expression of pure joy. Aren't you a bit young to be staring at me so much? Lady Zobanai turned her yellow eyes toward him. Most boys his age would become embarrassed after being caught staring at a woman and would walk away. But Harry did something different. He didn't move his eyes away from her and walked closer. Lady Zabanai furrowed her eyebrows at his behavior. Did the Potters fail to teach you basic manners? You should answer when an adult asks you a question. Harry stopped a few feet away from her. Lady Zabanai observed his unusual behavior with a hint of curiosity. She had seen many adult men react like this in her presence. They would become enthralled by her beauty, unable to think clearly. At least, not with their heads on top of their shoulders. But her abilities had never worked on children this young before, and she was curious about why it seemed to be affecting this one. In truth, what Harry found interesting about this particular woman was not her physical appearance but her magic. From the first time he saw her, Harry could feel something trying to invade his mind. She was emanating something akin to a passive compulsion similar to the Vila allure but also different. This, by itself, was intriguing, but more importantly, he sensed that something else was mixed with her magic. Something that he was both familiar with and wary of. Harry was not the sensory type, so it took him a while to figure out what it was. But now, being very close to this woman, he finally solved the mystery. Are you just going to stare at me all night without saying anything? You're not going to charm many ladies like that, Lady Zabanai said playfully. I see, you must be a half-blood then, Harry deduced. Excuse me. The amusement vanished from her voice. I am very much a pure blood. I wasn't talking about that nonsense. I was referring to your human blood. You aren't completely human, are you? What did you say? She now looked angry. Throughout her life, she had heard many rumors about herself. Like she was a master of mind arts and used that to brainwash men. Or that she used potions, or that she was a demoness and used her unnatural allure to seduce people and steal their souls. I don't know what rumors you've heard about me, but none of it is true. She was tired of all the talking behind her back. She had always been good at attracting people, especially men. After becoming an adult, she started to use her natural skills to elevate her family's poor status. Thanks to all the money she had acquired from her marriages to old men, the Zabanis were one of the richest families in Britain. Harry raised an eyebrow at her response. That sounded honest. Wait, so you don't know what you are? It must have happened many generations ago, then. Is this some new prank? Because it's not funny. And I don't have time for this, so. I'm back. The old lord from before emerged onto the balcony carrying a couple of drinks. He then noticed Harry. What is this boy doing here? He is one of my son's classmates, and he was about to leave, isn't that right? She said to Harry in a harsh tone. Yes, I better go back inside. His curiosity had been satisfied, and he had no business with her. He had briefly considered killing her because of her demon blood. But it seemed that whatever pact her ancestors made with a demon happened so long ago that her demon blood was extremely diluted, and she was not even aware of this fact or that she was passively using a demonic lure to seduce men. If he had to guess, a distant ancestor of hers had managed to procreate with either a succubus or an incubus, and this was the result. Now that he knew this, she held no more interest for him. As long as she didn't provoke him, he had no reason to end her life. When Harry returned inside, he saw a few people at his table. The duo of Crabbe and Goyle were still there, eating sweets. They had not moved from there the entire time and barely said anything. Daphne was also there, sitting next to Bulstrode, and there was also an older boy standing next to them. Daphne didn't seem happy at all while speaking with this boy. They seemed to be arguing about something. Harry approached the table to see what all the fuss was about. He now recognized the boy. He was one of the Slytherin beaters, but he forgot his name. Come on, Greengrass, it's just one dance. It'll be fun, I promise, the boy leaned closer. I told you my feet are hurting. I don't feel like dancing with anyone now. Daphne had long lost her calm persona. It was the third time she rejected him, but he would not go away. The boy then smiled and leaned closer, putting a hand on Daphne's shoulder. Come on, just one diarg. The boy yelped in pain when he felt someone grabbing his arm and moving him away from Daphne. I believe the lady said no, very clearly. You should take the hint and move on. Let me go. The older boy glared at the person who grabbed his arm with such force that he could almost hear his bones crack. Potter. He thought it was Warrington at first since he was the one aiming the most for Greengrass. But he was shocked when he saw the second-year Gryffindor instead. Release me. Harry let him go. It's best if you leave now, he said calmly. The senior became enraged at being humiliated like this by a junior. He reached for his wand, aiming it at Harry's face. "What do you think you're doing?" Daphne yelled. This drew the attention of most of the room. The boy snapped out of it and realized what he was doing. If he cast a spell here, he would be forever banned from most events, at the very least. "What is this?" Lord Greengrass approached, accompanied by other lords. "Boy, have you lost your mind?" Lady Parkinson exclaimed. "Put that wand away." "Harry!" Pansy came running. The senior quickly stored his wand back into his robes. "It's not what it looks like. We were just kidding around, and I wanted to show him my wand," he said, the first thing that came to his mind. "Tisk." Marcus Flint frowned. "That idiot," he huffed. He and Adrian were planning a way to provoke Potter into a duel, but in the end, it was one of them who was provoked into doing something dumb. "Now we won't be able to." Adrian Pusey started. "I know." Marcus spat. "Julian, I want you to accompany Mr. Derek to the fireplace and open the flow network for him. He is leaving." Lord Parkinson said it with a tone of authority that left no room to argue. "Certainly." The butler nodded. Peregrine Derek knew he had made a huge mistake tonight. But his anger was all directed towards one person. "Potter, you are going to pay for this," he promised himself. Chapter 147, Time passes. Once the boy was escorted out, the party returned to normal, and Harry sat down next to Daphne. "That was very reckless, Potter, to confront a senior like that," Bulstrode said. "I like it, you have balls." She then gave him a nod of approval. Harry ignored her last comment. Who was that guy? He knew he was a Quidditch player but did not know much more. "Peregrine Derek, a sixth-year beater from the Quidditch team," Daphne told him. "Is he always like that?" Daphne sighed. "He can be bothersome, but he never irritated me this much before." "That's because he is afraid of getting in trouble." "I guess he took too many fire whiskies today," Bulstrode said. "I heard that he always goes for the youngest girls, like first and second years. But he knows better than offending an important family like yours. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that one." Harry thought. Lyra, Ginny, and Luna are still first years, if that guy dares to even look at them in a weird way. I may have to bury him in the Chamber of Secrets. "Harry, you are making a scary face again," Daphne whispered to him. "Nonsense, I don't have a scary face," Harry retorted. "You totally do. You were making one right now," Daphne said back while leaning closer to him without realizing it. "Look, if anyone is going to be making scary faces, it should be the Ice Queen of Slytherin." Her face gained a tinge of red. "No one actually calls me that. And they shouldn't, you are far too emotional for that title," Harry told her. "That's your fault." She started to raise her voice. "You two are very close, huh? It seems like Pansy has competition." Bulstrode had been watching them interact with a face of amusement. Daphne was about to complain when more people returned to the table, forcing her to remain quiet. "I did not touch anything." Not huffed before sitting down. "You put your hands on my butt as we danced, don't try to deny it." An enraged Tracy pointed her finger at him. Maybe he just wanted to check if there was something there. "After all, it's hard to tell with those loose robes," Zabanai chuckled. "Don't listen to him, it was an accident." Not exclaimed. "Oh, Blaze, I saw your mother talking very passionately with Lord Williams." "I think you are getting a new dad soon," Bulstrode said jokingly. "What? Not that old fool." Blaze stood up and ran out. Pansy came back to the table looking exhausted after spending the last 2 hours dancing. The party came to a close without any other notable events. The older boys kept throwing nasty glances at Harry, but none of them tried anything after Derek was kicked out of the party. Lord Parkinson came accompanied by his wife to say goodbye before he left. He sounded polite and respectful the entire time, and Harry could not detect an ounce of hostility toward him. Just goes to show how good he was at lying. The family remained together for the rest of the holiday, receiving only a brief visit from Ginny. Harry enjoyed every second he spent like this. And he was willing to face anything or anyone to keep them safe from harm. Upon returning to school, Daphne contacted him to inform that her father had accepted his request but it would take time to find everything on his list and that it would be very expensive. Harry told her that money was not an issue, after all, he had several millions of galleons stored in a secret location. Courtesy of Lucius Malfoy, who was paranoid enough to keep most of his fortune at home. He was not in a hurry either. Most of those materials, he won't need them before starting his third year. And only a few were required for the next summer. He has requested a large number of things for several different projects, like creating a golem for Holly, restoring his broken artifacts, or completing the materials needed for his planned rituals. Time in Hogwarts passed quickly once he went back to his usual routines. The older Slytherin boys did not make any trouble for him. It's not what he expected, but it seems they were being patient about this. Later on, he found out that Lord Parkinson made a formal announcement informing the other lords that his daughter's engagement would not be decided until next year, putting all proposals on hold. Daphne kept him informed about other things too. Like how Malfoy had become completely isolated inside the Slytherin house. No one would talk to him unless it was to offer some mockery. His family's financial situation had gotten worse. There were rumors saying that Lady Malfoy had sold the ancestral home along with all their villas except for one, where they were living now. Draco looked miserable now, but Harry could not feel bad for him. That boy always had a dark heart and enjoyed the suffering of those he considered to be beneath him. For his part, Harry made good use of this peaceful time to train in the Room of Requirements and to work on translating the time book he acquired from Dumbledore. He continued to win every Quidditch game in the same manner as before, and the Gryffindor team was on its way to winning the Quidditch Cup. His method of playing did not make him very popular among the majority of the spectators who came to enjoy a nice game of Quidditch only for it to end after a few seconds. The other players were even more unhappy and had requested for the professors to take action. Harry had the feeling that next year, there were going to be a few new rules. Then, in May, something happened that made Harry's blood boil and will start a great change in the Slytherin house. Chapter 148, Luna in Trouble. Early May, just a few minutes before curfew. Harry was inside the Room of Requirements, finishing his routine training when a nearby painting spoke to him. "Sir, a young student is being attacked." An old knight wearing silver armor suddenly appeared in the painting. Harry had been using the paintings and several elves to keep an eye on the castle after hearing some disturbing rumors about the older Slytherin boys. Dumbledore didn't know about this, but the paintings could not tell him either since Harry had made use of his full authority. But he was sure the old man would probe if he did. Since January, he had stopped 4 attacks on younger students, this being the 5th one. An elf popped into the room. "Master Harry Potter, sir." Dobby called. Harry now had a bad feeling. Dobby was only watching 3 very specific girls. "Who is it?" he asked his elf urgently. "Miss Luna, sir." Dobby said. "Take me there." Harry extended his hand, and the elf took it. They both disappeared from the room and reappeared in a corridor that Harry recognized as belonging to the 7th floor of the castle. "Get back here!" Harry heard a boy's voice nearby. He pulled out his wand and ran towards the sound. He caught a glimpse of the boy entering an abandoned classroom and followed behind. Harry then found Luna on the other side of the classroom, looking at the boy with fear in her eyes. She didn't appear injured but was missing her shoes and having a hard time breathing. Finally. The boy was also huffing but not as much as Luna. "Now you are Min." A red light hit the back of his head, and he fell down. "Luna, are you okay?" Harry asked the frightened girl. "Harry." She looked confused at his sudden appearance. "It's me, you are okay now, Luna." He approached the girl while giving the stunned boy a passing glance. Peregrine Derek. He had been expecting to catch this one much earlier given his reputation. But this was the first. "Is he dead?" Luna pointed at the older boy. Had this happened outside the school he may have been. He thought. "No, just stunned, don't worry about him. He is not going to move anytime soon, can you tell me what happened?" He knew she had not been hurt by him. Dobby would have stopped him if that was the case. But that was a last resort. After all, a house elf attacking a student could lead to some unwanted investigation. And Dobby is technically a wanted elf after the Malfoys incident. "I went out to look for my shoes, they told me they saw them somewhere around here." Luna tried to explain. "They? The older girls, they told me where to find my shoes when they saw me looking for them. Then, that boy approached me, he had a lot of plimpies buzzing around him, and I didn't like it so I ran away, and he then started to chase me for some reason. Do you think I did something wrong?" "No, you did well at running away from this guy. Okay, I think I understand the situation, let me deal with this now. I'm going to accompany you back to your common room. It's already past curfew, said Harry. What about my shoes? She pointed at her naked feet. Dobby, can you find them? They should be hanging somewhere nearby. Yes, Harry Potter, Master Sir. They could not see the elf as he was currently hiding, so they just heard his voice. Who's that? Luna tilted her head to one side. My elf. You can call him too if you are in some trouble. But he is not allowed to appear in front of other people, Harry explained. Why not? It's a long story. A pair of red shoes appeared out of nowhere and floated in front of Luna. My shoes. She took them with a smile on her face and put them on. Harry then escorted her to Ravenclaw Tower while the stunned body of Derek levitated behind them. How long are you going to keep him like that? Luna pointed at the older boy. Just a bit longer, I need to take him somewhere. Why? Harry asked. Luna shrugged. It didn't seem like she was concerned for him and just asked out of curiosity. This girl was always hard to read for Harry. He could never tell what she was thinking. I want to enter. Luna walked to the statue guarding the tower and spoke to it. The statue came to life immediately. Then you have to answer this riddle, what I open. Harry interrupted the talking golem, he was not in the mood for riddles. This one immediately shut up, and the entrance opened. Whoa! I've never seen anyone answering a riddle so fast. He only said 2 words. Luna looked very impressed. Let's go. Harry walked inside. Luna didn't make a comment about him walking into her common room despite being a Gryffindor and followed him inside. There you are, I was about to go out and look for you. Professor Flitwick had been standing close to the entrance and rushed to her as soon as she entered. Mr. Potter, what are you doing here? Well, I am the one who found your missing student. And I also wanted to speak with you about something. I assume it's related to Miss Lovegood's disappearance, yes? The professor asked. When Harry nodded, he continued. Very well, then I will allow you to stay in Ravenclaw Tower for a bit. Come to my office, you too Miss Lovegood. Is the floating boy going to wait outside? Luna asked. Floating boy? Flitwick became confused. Chapter 149, Visiting the Potions Professor. Harry left the tower entrance, and it closed behind him. The conversation had left Professor Flitwick very riled up. He was truly not happy to find out about some of his ravens bullying a first-year student. Harry just limited himself to giving him the facts but didn't try to push things further. The main reason for this was that he knew the girls who did this and why they did it. Cho Chang and Marietta Edgecombe could be mean sometimes, but they were not evil either. Luna's encounter with Derek was just a coincidence and not something they had planned to happen, otherwise, Harry would have taken matters into his own hands instead of letting the professor decide their punishment. I will still be having a conversation with those two. After all, he was probably the reason for this sudden prank on Luna. Cho had been bitter with him all year for her losses at Quidditch. And she knew that Luna was a friend of his since they sat together often during meals. So it wasn't hard to reach the conclusion on why this happened. Dobby. He called once back in the corridor. Master. You think you can remember Luna's shoes? Their size and style? You know, the ones you just recovered a moment ago. Dobby remembers. Dobby has a very good memory. The elf said with excitement. Very good, Dobby. Tomorrow, I want you to make a trip to Diagon Alley and buy 2 identical pairs in one of those high-security suitcases. You can take the money from that place where we keep things. Of course, Dobby can do it. Harry then recalled something. Wait, send Mipsy to Diagon Alley, don't go yourself. Better not risk someone recognizing you there. Once you have the items, bring them here. If my parents see you and ask anything, tell them that I will explain later. The elf disappeared, leaving Harry alone with the stunned Derek. It was not hard to convince Flitwick to let him carry the boy directly to Snape since he was the one who knocked him down. Harry started to walk while making the floating body of Derek follow behind him. But after a few steps, he stopped and looked back. Finite incantatum. Derek's body fell back onto the hard stone floor with a thud, and he woke up. Wah, what hap? Harry threw another stunner at him before he could get a grip on the situation. He then grabbed Derek by one foot and started to drag him across the floor with zero concern for his well-being. Much better. Harry nodded. Thud. Derek's head was hit against a wall as they turned a corner. It's going to be a long way to the dungeons. It was well over an hour after curfew when Harry arrived at Snape's door. Harry placed a hand on the pommel, and it unlocked immediately. What? Headmaster! Snape was startled. Dumbledore had never entered his office at this hour without notice, making him think it must be a very urgent matter. Not quite. Harry came inside while still carrying the older boy. He was a bit surprised to have made it this far, considering Derek was at least twice his size. I must be in even better shape than I thought. Potter! How did you open my door? What are you doing here at this time? Is that one of my students? Snape wasn't sure what to get angry at first. I'm not telling you. I came to deliver this guy, and yes, he is one of yours. Harry answered. Snape pulled out his wand, his eyes seething with fury. He does not remember the last time he was this angry with someone. Calm down, Professor, you are going to hurt yourself with that thing, Harry said while pointing at his wand and then walked to one of the shelves, looking for something. You better have an excellent explanation for this. Snape got closer to the stunned boy. Derek was in a terrible state after being dragged across 7 floors. His robes were torn, his skin was covered in bruises and cuts, his face was hard to recognize, and his limbs were bent in impossible ways. What in Merlin's name happened to him? Snape was shocked. He had never seen a student get this badly hurt. Ah, there it is. Harry finally found the type of glass bottle he had been looking for. He then used his wand to extract a set of memories and placed them in the small bottle. This, of course, surprised Snape. Pulling memories like that was not easy and required the person to have a decent mastery of occlumency, otherwise, the memories would be an incomprehensible mess. You can go review this later in the headmaster's office if you need evidence. Harry placed the bottle filled with the memories he prepared about Derek on top of the table. But if you want to know what happened. I caught this waste of oxygen chasing after a first-year girl to assault her. What? Snape exclaimed with shock. That first year also happens to be a friend of mine. Harry added. Snape looked back at the destroyed boy. You did this to a 6th year. Not directly, but it doesn't matter now. Potter, you could end up worse than expelled for this. You cowl. Oh, please. Save me the poor attempt to scare me. Harry interrupted him. But let me tell you something, the only reason this thing is still alive is that I still have some respect for the old man, and I don't want to kill a student inside his school. Had this happened outside these walls, he would not be breathing right now. Snape took a step back without thinking after seeing the expression on Harry's face. He was used to seeing eyes like those. The eyes of a cold killer. How can a boy this young have eyes like those? He didn't understand it. Is this really Lily's son? He had to admit that he had been wrong about the boy. Since the first time he saw that face, he thought he was going to be another James Potter. A troublemaker, a prankster, and a bully, but the Harry he was seeing now was not that, it was something much more dangerous. Who are you? The professor asked. Chapter 150, Time. I don't think this is the time or place to get philosophical, Professor. But if you are contemplating the idea that I am an imposter, then once again, I will ask you to take those concerns to the headmaster. He can vouch for my identity. Snape didn't say anything and didn't move from his place either. He appeared to be having some trouble processing the situation. Stop thinking so much, just take these memories, take that pervert to the infirmary, and then go see the headmaster. Harry started to walk away. Potter. I didn't say you could leave. He snapped back to reality and reacted by lifting his wand and pointing at Harry again. Harry ignored the angry professor. Snape could be very temperamental sometimes, but he was not going to shoot at his back like a coward. I said stop. Snape shouted. Harry stopped right at the door frame and without turning around, he spoke again. I can already imagine how this is going to go down. Despite everything, Dumbledore will not expel that boy because he likes to think that people can change if they are given enough chances. He likes to see the good side in everything, but you and I know better, right, Professor? Harry glanced back. Some people have no good side. I want this to serve as a warning, keep your house in line, or the next time something like this happens, I will do it myself. He exited the office after saying what he wanted to say, leaving behind a shocked Professor Snape. It seems like I have been completely wrong. Snape muttered, still looking at the open door left by Harry. You are nothing like your father. He wondered for a moment if that was a good or a bad thing, before remembering that he had more urgent matters to attend to. On the next day, Harry expected to be called to the headmaster's office, but the call never came. He could not guess what Dumbledore was thinking but could only hope that at least Snape took his advice seriously. Luna was left alone after that. Harry had no idea what Professor Flitwick could have told the girls, but it appeared to have worked, at least for now. By the end of May, Harry had to make another trip to the Chamber of Secrets. Accessing the chamber was much easier this time around. All the nasty protections set in place by Salazar Slytherin were completely removed and replaced by some much weaker and harmless ones instead. Myrtle was not very happy to see him again, especially when he destroyed part of her bathroom once more. This time, he made sure that no one was following him at least. Not that he expected to fight any more dangerous beasts, but you never know. Oh? They have done some cleaning down here. The debris had been removed so he had no trouble walking around. When he reached the innermost chamber, he noticed the ceiling had been restored and the holes had been covered. The chamber was still in a deplorable state despite this, but at least it won't collapse anytime soon. Still stinks, though. The rancid smell of dead basilisks made it difficult to breathe here. No matter. I didn't come here for fun. Harry tapped the stone tiles with his wand and transfigured a simple stone table. He then placed an old book on top and opened it. Let's see. He flipped through the pages. This was, of course, none other than the time book, the one lent by Dumbledore. After months of translating it and studying its contents, he was finally confident enough in his knowledge to perform some tests. His main objective was to find the cause of what happened in this place a few months ago, which could in turn, answer a few other questions he had. The time book contained the insights of many experts in the field of time and space magic. It talked about the dangers of time travel and how, when someone travels back in time, that person is at a constant risk of creating an entire parallel universe. If the traveler does something to change the timeline, no matter how small the change is, even if it's only something like breaking a window that was not supposed to be broken in the time he came from, then, another parallel timeline will come into existence. The timeline where the window was never broken will remain the same, but now the traveler will be in a timeline where that window was always meant to be broken by him. Those two realities will now exist parallel with each other, covered but unable to interact with one another. Even small things could lead to big changes. Like his mother getting pregnant a few weeks earlier, meaning that he would be born earlier and not form part of the prophecy. Time travel has existed for several centuries already, and even with all the restrictions put in place by the Ministry, there have been thousands of persons traveling in time since its conception. The amount of new realities spawning from all those travels is impossible to calculate. But what worried Harry was that once created, these alternate universes should have remained separated. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I want you to keep in mind that this type of time travel is something I made for the FIC and is not how it works in canon. Canon time travel is supposed to work on a close loop where changing anything is going to be impossible. This one is the type where if you change anything, then a new timeline is created, like in Back from the Future. This was a necessary change because I needed those alternate timelines to exist for the story to work, since Harry had initially come from a different timeline.
Thanks for listening.